I can coding in progress. There we are. I'm going to
Bye.
introduce you, and then we're going to have a great conversation, man.
Well, conversation or presentation? Because I got a presentation here for you if you're ready.
Uh, I think conversation will be better, and if there is something
Okay,
that
that's
you can
fine.
present, we can, as I say, skip branches like a squirrel.
Okay, sounds good.
I
Sounds
got
good.
myself some coffee. I just went back from work. Did a 13-hour drive today, so I'm a little bit tired, just a little bit. So
Oh,
let's
I
go.
totally hear you on that. Okay, wow.
That's going to be all right, man. So, welcome to another episode of Disorganized Productions, ladies and gentlemen, fellow humans. Uh, Today's episode number 41 with a special guest. I will introduce him, or I will let him introduce himself to the audience in a sec. Um, Today we have Brandon Kroll. Welcome to the show, Brandon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Why don't you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Well, I'm Brandon, from America, and I dig into the occult with symbolism, anthropology, and etymology. So that's kind of my special little niche.
All right, right. And how did you came by that? What's your journey to digging into that sometimes very dark stuff and sometimes very
Yeah.
enlightening stuff?
Right. Well, kind of just started. Basically, I was going to a Christian school and I was getting really tired that, what they're teaching was like, you guys are touching on all the stuff, but nobody's asking these questions.
Mhm.
And I always had a little bit of the perspective is like, I kind of want to know what the other side thinks. So I don't just judge because it's like the sake of judging, because I'm going to, be pious and just stick to my guns with, my denominational adjective, as opposed to why do I come to the believe what I believe? It's not just cast my stone and not have any standard for where I came to my conclusion. I at least have to come and meet them halfway to
Mhm.
say that this is where I stand.
Right.
And so I came back to a community college. I had a professor, and he was starting to teach us like the Odyssey, a lot of Shakespeare, and he made us think of the texts from not necessarily like look at it just as this is literature. Think of the psychology. What's the character going through? Try to think of the cultural context, and that really got the ball rolling for me. I as a writer, that really just resonated. Is start to look at this and mythologies or whatever and start to culminate them. Try to see where a story could be plausible, what's an equivalent, what's a variant. And then eventually I tapped into a gentleman's work who recently just passed away, Dr. Michael Heiser. And he was digging a lot into the Anunnaki, but from a biblical perspective.
Hmm.
And that kind of got the ball rolling for me with my own research and going down this rabbit trail and coming to really radical conclusions, but I'm able to back it up and solidify where I've come to these things with their own texts.
Mhm. And because when you go back to Anunnaki, it's like Mesopotamian times, I think, right?
Yes.
And there's was there a lot of scripture back then from well, let's say from the Bible?
hmm Um, a lot of people like to throw it and just say like the Sumerian tablets or the Emerald tablets is a little bit more how they're better known as. That was like the only literature that they had. Bible wasn't really coming along until later. But what people don't seem to understand is what I've uncovered is there is a parody religion that's been constantly interfused from the Tower of Babel family that goes to present for what the occult wants as a new world order. It's kind of culminating into a full circle, the Ouroboros, if you will, from
Hmm.
beginning to end. It's bookends.
Right, right. Because there's a lot of stuff going on nowadays, right? And
Yes.
I think what you really trying to point out is that even if you're a very good Christian and you read your Bible and scripture and stuff like that, that there is a lot of stuff that's not the way that it's been written down, or in the intentions are different, or maybe even some things that are not based on the belief system that we have today, because there's a lot of yeah, a lot of stuff going on. Please explain
It,
a
it,
little bit
it's
how you came to that, because there's a lot of stuff to cover there.
Yes, absolutely. And that's something that I like about it is because a lot of people are automatically like, well, if he's such a loving God, why would he flood the earth or why would he allow all this evil to happen? And this is where I like to counteract that because most, as you said, most Bible texts will just be like, oh, it's just God and he also died upon a cross. I'm like, no, it's a father and son. There's a reason for that. Whereas if you tap into the other aspect, this is the parody, you're saying, oh, that he died and then he came back, he's regenerated, he's reincarnated. And Nimrod's religion, or Tammuz, their antichrist, the Trihermes, they believe very much in the idea of regeneration, reincarnation, and immortality on our own rights. We don't need a creator God. That's ultimately what the whole I see all-seeing eye is representing.
Hmm.
And this is where that's totally contrary to what the Bible states. The Bible is very much about you have to humble yourself before God. You will not understand who God is and understand the love unless you try to understand why he does the things that he does. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of Christians, they use the adjective, they'll defend their denominational adjectives but they don't know how to live it. They
Right.
ultimately do not know how to live it. There is no Holy Spirit application. And I was just actually prepping for this show. I was reading in Acts 19, and it was talking about Paul asking if the people he was meeting there, if they had been baptized. And they're like, yes. Well, he's like, did you feel the Holy Spirit afterwards? And they're like, no, we were baptized by John the Baptist. He's like, well, then you didn't, you're not baptized with the Holy Spirit indwelling you.
Mhm.
Because a lot of Christians, they don't understand what the Holy Spirit is. And if you don't understand what that is, I'm going to hate to break it to you. You're probably not a Christian. Because
Mhm.
in all honesty, like somebody like myself, you want to know how I know I'm on the right track? It's just like Christ. Every time I go to church, I piss off everybody. When I try to present something to somebody and I'm trying to meet them halfway, they get controversial with me.
Uh-huh.
And, so you start seeing the elements. It's like, if you're really of Christ, every time you made a cameo in a temple, he caused a problem. That should be evident in your own faith. And it's not because you're causing violence, it's because you're standing on principles and
Mhm.
defending them. And you have reason, you have stuff to back it up. And everybody's pushing you away because they don't want to hear that.
Right. What's
Yeah.
your perspective of the Spirit then, the Holy Spirit?
I would say the Holy Spirit, like it says in Peter, is that the word was written by holy men of God that were inspired by the Holy Spirit. When we get to the point in the Bible where it says the word became flesh, aka through Christ, that means something, folks. And people don't seem to realize is that when the veil ripped in two, when Christ died upon the cross, the temple veil was ripped in two. Now,
Hmm.
previously, that used to mean only the high priest could go in there and intercede on behalf of the people for the sins of the people. And he could go into the presence of the Holy of Holies because the Ark of the Covenant was stored there. When that was ripped in two, that now opened the door for greater is he that is within you than he that is of the world. Know ye not your body is a temple of the Lord. This now gave a chance for people to be indwelled with the Holy Spirit. This is what Christ was talking about. It was like, I'm not going to tear down this temple. I'm talking about mine.
Hmm.
But again, they're using the text of, oh, you mean the physical building? No,
No.
talking about me, so that people who follow me will be able to be indwelled and be my priests. But here's a caveat. You go back to Hosea, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. And we usually just put a period right there and that's it. It keeps going. But he who reject knowledge will not be my high priest.
Hmm.
And I also forget your children. That's a scary verse because if you are basically saying, oh, that's not what that means, that's not contextual, or I'm not doing anything paganism in my life, blah, 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 all of a sudden you're saying, I don't want the Holy Spirit. I don't want to acknowledge that I have to change. I just want to go through my mediocre life, do my routines, do my traditions. I don't want to ask any questions because I got a rapture ticket and I get out before anything gets bad. That's where a lot of modern Christianity is at. And it's
Hmm.
supposed to be a sacrificial life. It's supposed to be something where I'm willing to put everything on, put all my chips on the table and say I'm willing to put everything down. Why? Because I understand what I'm doing. A
Hmm.
lot of Christians can't do that.
And I think it's very hard because
Absolutely.
there's a lot of subcultures within Christianity, right? If you go to a big city, there are so many churches that preach the same Bible on a different way.
Yes.
So misperception will be one of the biggest traps you can fall into, right?
1,000%. And that's even something where I've talked to people There's the parable of the sleeping bridesmaids. 5 of them fall asleep. 5 of them are staying adamant. They have their oil. So cool. What does the Bible say? Well, thy word is a lamp unto my feet. So that's the Bible. What is oil? Because they fell asleep, and when they woke up, they're like, oh shoot, we got to go get some oil. So they start running. By the time they get back, he's like, what do you want? Well, we're here for the marriage feast. He says, yeah, but you weren't prepped. What is the oil then? Oil would be Holy Spirit discernment,
Mhm.
because you understand that you have to be ready. And this is even with Garden Gethsemane. That means oil press. He's telling his disciples, stay awake, stay vigilant. They're all falling asleep on the wheel. And I think modern Christianity, again, it's like the 5 denominations. Let's go with that instead of bridesmaids. They're falling asleep because they don't understand what the Holy Spirit is. And like you said, they start cutting off into the religious sects. Back then, it was Sadducees,
Right.
Pharisees. Now we got Lutherans, Catholics, and it starts. You guys are starting to love your theology and traditions and institutions more than you are advocating for Christ. And this is where a lot of Catholics, I'm like, I don't give a crap. Like I say, it's the main one because that's where all the other ones bastardized off of. Protestant, I don't. I'm saying all denominations aren't biblical, because
Mhm.
a lot of people are then sticking to their guns defending that, as opposed to I'm sacrificing my life. Like even ministry, we have it where only the holy man who goes to seminary or whatnot, you have to revere him so much. So anybody else in the church that might have a perspective, they're just like, oh no, 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 only trust the guy behind the pulpit. And it's like,
Ah,
yeah.
that's a tricky one. I sometimes point out that it's one of the first franchise uh franchise methods, right? That's with Christianity, with the Bible, just like, okay, when you got the Bible, you preach your stuff,
Hmm.
and people listen to you. You can have a building. I think it's very sponsored in this world. If you make a church, you're going to have a lot of subsidized stuff and stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
And that makes it for me less interesting, just to be honest with you, because
No, absolutely.
when it's commercialized, you know, I think the first burger from McDonald's was a great one, but when they said, okay, you can buy this franchise, stuff was going on in the bag of of McDonald's that it's easier to eat for the people and they can make more money out of it. I think, just as you pointed out, I think the church lives within us. Just like this
Correct.
conversation that we have, we can agree that we could disagree with
Mhm.
some points and stuff like that. Coming from a little different angle, but that's okay. If you
Yes.
build churches, you ask people for money, and you drive in a Rolls Royce and flying in jet planes across the world just to spread the word of God, I think that's wrong.
1,000%. a
Hmm.
thousand percent. And again, even if you like, we go to where Christ was flipping, the money lenders tables. That was known as the bazaars of Ananias, the high priest, because he was basically saying, okay, people don't want to bring their own sacrifices, so we're start selling basically Walmart in front of the temple, and everybody can pick up what they need. It'll be more convenient. And he's like, no, it's supposed to be personal. It's supposed to be about selecting it. It's supposed to about, you're coming here with humility. It's not about making money. This is
Hmm.
where I'm always arguing with people. Is like, for me, I'm like an independent journalist slash digital missionary. That's how I see myself. I'm asking for $5. I'm not asking for 1,000, but I'm asking that because I see myself as an advocate and a voice. A lot of people are over here saying, "Well, who do we trust?" And I'm like, "Don't trust any of them." And even then, don't trust me.
That's the Don't trust anyone. That's the best
Yes,
thing, right?
that's the first rule. And I'm like, when I do my stuff, I don't sit there and be like, "This is what I know," and this is blah blah blah. No, I want to show you my links. I want to tell you my books that I'm getting this from. If you want to
Mhm.
dig into this too, I'm just merely sharing how I came to my conclusions. The rest, that's up to you.
Right.
And I don't need you to come in here every week and pay me like a salary, or get me a jet or get me a fancy like, no, I literally just want enough for a roof over my head.
Mm.
Bare minimum. That's all that you need for ministry. And that's what I'm trying to, like you just said, I don't think people understand that is ministry. Whereas the other one is like, no, you need to pay me because I have the doctrinal degree and
Right.
credentials. And it's like,
Right.
where's your heart though?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like me, I put my whole savings to this, my 401k, everything, because I cared that much.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think Christ wasn't that wealthy with all the stuff that he preaches, and when he walked
Yeah.
upon this earth, there's And sometimes I want to. I'm going to be honest with you. I will be playing the devil's advocate.
By all means.
Oh yeah, um, because there's of course a lot of translations. The Bible has been written over 1,500 years with several authors.
Yep.
Um, it's a very tricky one how to see how the translations went. And even now, when we see the new Bibles that come out are completely different. Well, not completely, but some
But
texts
yeah,
that have been put out from the King James Bible or the Genova Bible. And the thing is, when something has been written down, there's always someone behind it which has something like an intention why
ulterior
he's been
motive.
written stuff down, right?
Yeah.
And I think you also know Santos Bonacci. He points it out on a different kind of level about how to interpret the Bible. I
Hmm.
don't know what you think of him. I never heard you talk about it. I know that Josh Monday doesn't like him. What's your take on Santos Bonacci on his perception of the Bible, for example?
Can't say I've heard of him, but I have heard of folks similar to him or somebody like Billy Carson, and they're
Mhm.
trying to go from a totally different perspective. What I do like the cynic though,
Hmm.
and I would go all the way back to Niche or Niche, whatever. I can't pronounce his name for the life of me.
Nietzsche. Nietzsche.
Nietzsche, thank you.
The
Um,
German
you're
guy.
closer to the source, so you know.
Yeah.
But I loved his Parable of the Madman. Like I understand that was written from a cynical perspective, but like I said, I like coming to meet somebody halfway, and he's right. We
Hmm.
have put so much emphasis on the building that we've put God in the grave. We're supposed to be the living word. We're supposed to be ambassadors of our faith. So if you ever seen the movie The Mummy with Brendan Fraser,
No, no, I
okay, well there's a
didn't.
scene they go down into the cavern. They can't see a thing. So somebody over there with a torch is like, "Oh, here's a mirror." Tilts it and it bounces upward. And it hit the little cavern where they came down into the cavern, the little hole, hits the sun, and then the mirror bounces off on all the other mirrors in the cavern and suddenly they can see.
Wow.
Now, the way I look at that is this is what it means to hold your lamp up. Don't hide it under a bushel. Why? Because if you're
Right.
putting so much emphasis on the translation on this thing, why? Because I'm living it.
Hmm.
There's a verse in Peter where it says, "Live such a life so that people ask of the faith that is within you." It's like, well, everybody else is doing Christmas. How come you're not doing this? Well, because of the standards of my faith. This is you
Hmm.
explain it. You suddenly are you're a reason. You're the crux. You're always the salmon going against the stream. People are saying
Right.
that's not normal. That is different. Even when Christianity started getting started, it started becoming a thing where the sophists and all the philosophers, when they get to Mars Hill with Paul, they're like, okay, dude, what is this for philosophy movement or whatever? That's what they're thinking it as.
Hmm.
Please come up here and explain it to us because apparently you're one of those guys that is their representative. So come up here and explain it. That's what it should be, is that it's so radical that it's shaking an empire.
Hmm.
Everybody's starting to leave their idols. People are starting to leave the temples. Why? Because they're starting to live it in their lives. And it's noticeable where philosophers are going, we've never seen this before.
Hmm. And
So
he
I
was
would
a
say,
badass.
oh,
I mean, when you listen to stuff and when you're reading the Bible, I'm not into like I'm reading the Bible, but
yeah, I got you.
I believe in God. Uh, but as I said on the firmament, shout out for these guys for Rule and Alex.
Yeah.
Um, I think I'm copy paste Jesus. So just like you said, the flame that I can hold, my belief, my faith, when I do that with all the respect to other people with positive mindset, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter what kind of God it is, it's Ganesh or Hinduism or paganism or whatever. But if you do truthful to yourself and to the other, I think then you even can say that the Ten Commandments could be um, copy pasted to every belief system that there is. And you studied a lot of that stuff, right? So I think that's we call a red line between all the religions there are. Can you tell me a little bit about what you think or what your take is on that? That um, yeah, there's this red line that could be across all these religions that we are that there are on the world, basically.
Mhm. I would say for sure there is a lot of basic good morals, good principles that everybody's supposed to live by. And I think for the most part, that's just most humankind. Because like you get somebody else that's like an atheist or an agnostic, and they're just going to be like, well, I'm a good person. It's like, yes, but you don't get into heaven by your own merits. And what
Mm,
I would tap in with like Hinduism or stuff like that, you're basically mildly whatnot or what have you, implying that I'm a god, I'm a demigod in my own right. Or if
mm,
I get rid of my ego, I can ascend to a godhood master. And that's basically saying that I don't really need a creator god. And that's kind of the problem with the Anunnaki, the Fallen Watchers, whatever you definition you want to go by for all the cultures that have a mythos that connect back to this.
mhm,
They're basically said we don't need a creator god either. And you get Lucifer is like I can ascend God consciousness, like the God Most High. So when you're
mm,
getting a lot of this Buddha or whatever have you, mentalities, thinking this idea that God is within everything or is within everybody. It's like not necessarily, because in order to get that activated or to understand what the Holy Spirit is, you kind of have to acknowledge I am no good without the sacrifice, which is Christ. There's a reason why he was a sacrifice.
mhm,
All the other ones, they don't have a savior who came back from the dead. Everybody
mm.
else died. Or they all say it's regeneration, reincarnation. This is the significance and contrast where it's like, no, you've seen me before. Here's my scars. I'm the same guy. You can
Right.
see all the stuff that I went through for you.
Mhm.
So I
Oh,
think,
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to surmise. So I think when we're tapping into the idea that all gods are equal or something like that, it's like, no, I think what really is lacking is the humility before creator God.
Mhm.
And I think, yes, I can tolerate, I can respect, and just because I have a different view doesn't mean, oh, you believe this, I tossed you off a roof, or I
No,
I,
no,
I disown you of your citizenship because that doesn't go with what that's not kosher. I think that's kind of where I'm at. Is like we can be tolerant, but it doesn't mean necessarily we become submissive.
no. Mhm.
If it's against my faith, I'm still going to advocate for it. I'm not going to bend your arm or convict you at the point of a sword, like so many churches have done in the past. I
Oh
think
yeah,
you can do it through love. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just like be a Christian or we chop your head off. You
Yeah.
have a choice. Yeah,
Well, it
and
should be
that was
easy.
one things I've been written down. Just like okay, when we talked about Christianity, and when we talked before there was Christianity, there were
Yes.
other belief systems that were very big in the world,
Hmm.
and that's why what we're trying to point out just a few minutes ago. Just like okay, uh, the the Bible has been written by people with well maybe a guide as a guideline, um and to be fruitful in life, and how Jesus dealt with his stuff,
Right. Right.
what's been happening, because he had a bad life. He was not something like an elite
Yeah.
guy who was driving around in his Rolls Royce, or with some horses on a span and just like doing the stuff he did. He had a lot of fights, and he got into a lot
Yes.
of fights about the things that he preached.
Hmm.
And when you come then to the conclusion, okay, oh, so they had the Bible, and some people said, okay, now we got the Bible and we got some soldiers, and please go out there, and everybody who doesn't believe in this system, we're going to chop the head off, so they have a choice. So just like,
Correct.
wait a minute, didn't there are more wars been fought about? You're going to believe me or that, or you're
Yes.
going to die, and that's of course as non-believers, or probably also as people that are Christians, just like, ooh, this is a little bit the dark ages, right? So not
Yes.
like 100 years ago when the lights turned out, if you have to believe that. But it's just like, oh, that's something that doesn't resonate with me. If somebody has a true belief system and he's talking to me about that, just like what we have a chat together,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
you convince me, you don't have to force or have to be violent against me to
Correct.
push that system. That's one of
Yeah.
the things I think they they should have do that better. Maybe they prepare a meal, some drinks. Hey guys, come on, sit around the table. We're going to talk about my stuff, and maybe when it resonates, you can sign up right here.
Yes. Well, that's what Christ did. Was
Yeah,
from
he did.
Zacchaeus to everybody. He's like, let me come to your house. We'll talk. And he
All right.
says, and even with Peter, when he's getting arrested, Peter runs up, chops off the ear of the servant that was nearby, and he goes, "No, he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. That's not what we're about. My kingdom of heaven is not about that." You break down the etymology of the word soldier,
Mhm.
SOL, so soul, so
Son.
solstice, winter sol. This is the parody. That's the doppelganger. It's sun worship. Goes back to the Tower of Babel. And DIER, destined to die. You are destined to die for a sun god.
Aha. Which is
Catholic
Horus, right?
Catholicism, yes, Catholicism. You can see a little kippa that comes back to Cybele, the
Uh-huh.
little halo over his head that goes back to Horus. That's another equivalent of another sun guy that goes back to Tammuz, or he's known for the vision, the all-seeing eye.
Aha.
It's all about sun. So and again, this is what a lot of Catholics they don't want to tell you. Like, no, it's counterfeit Christianity. You worship death, Queen of the Heavens. That connects to Isis's title, Ishtar, Astarte, Ashtaroth, who is condemned in the Bible, and Queen of Mary or Virgin Mary is known as Queen of the Heavens. Saint Peter, Dispatar. Saint means to be set apart. Dispatar, set apart. He is the Latin sky god of the underworld.
Huh.
That connects to Osiris and Cernunnos, CERN, where we get that place from.
Oh, the bad thing in Switzerland.
Yes.
I
And
think
this
they're
is what I'm
gonna.
telling people. If you understand the counterfeit, you're not going to get deceived by modern things going on in this world. Because then you
Right.
go, wait, does that something that aligns with Christ? Like somebody was saying, you need to study your church history. Okay, outside of your St. Peter and, this is the true church. What's your thoughts on the Spanish Inquisition that went on for 400 years? The St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, where they were throwing babies' heads against brick walls because they were Huguenots and Protestants.
Hmm.
What's your thoughts on Mother Teresa's, charity accounts being frozen for child trafficking claims? And like when you
Right.
list this stuff, suddenly they go, no, did you look into that? Because I did, and that's not Christianity. But what, like, this is where I go back to. You're
Right.
defending the institution because of your adjectives. You identify as Catholic, your adjective. Whereas I'm like, I'm just Christian. I'm stupid. I don't know anything. But if you want to come over here, I got a book for you. We can
Hmm.
compare, contrast the text. We can see visually because we have cameras. We can see what's across the world now. And we can
Right.
say, does this make sense? Does this align with what the Bible says? This title connects to a pagan goddess. We see that he says condemns statue worship. What are you guys all doing? You pray to the Virgin? No, we don't. Yes, you do. I don't care if you call it
Hmm.
venerating. You're still praying to a dead person. Bible
Or to an
condemns that.
image, which God
Correct.
forbid.
Correct. And that's the same thing with Buddha or or and then beads. They're all praying with prayer. No. And then the repetitious prayers. No. And he
Hmm.
says, don't call anybody rabbi. Don't call anybody any master. So master masons. That's not biblical. And what was the other one? Don't call anybody like teacher or whatever.
Hmm.
Or father. Don't call anybody father on this earth. You call the Pope and the priest father.
Right.
You put
But.
such emphasis on this, and it's like if you line this with the Bible, it doesn't make sense. But here's the thing: most people have a Bible,
Mhm.
but it sits on the bookshelf. What did I just say? It's the living word. Your life
Right.
should be emulating what you preach. I think there was an evangelist, 1890s. He put it best. There's five gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the Christian. But most folks, they don't read the first four.
Okay.
Yeah,
But when you were in school and when you were listening to this guy's talk, to the professors and stuff like that,
yeah.
and you digged in for yourself to that journey, to wait a minute, folks, this is something big, right? We are doing the wrong things, right?
Yes.
What happened to your life then? Because I think that that's gonna be like a few sleepless nights when you wake up, just like, holy cow, what's happening right here? Oh, holy cow is for the Indians. I'm sorry for that, but you know what I mean.
No, I totally get where you're coming from. In all honesty, I had a really crap childhood. I was born to a pair of home invaders that killed the guy at the house that they went into. So they got put up in jail, and I was put up for adoption, get adopted, and my mom became an alcoholic or she already had alcoholism, but it started increasing when she started suspecting that my sister was messing around with my dad, or my dad was doing vice with a couple of them, all adopted. Yeah. So this traumatic effect, like I try to explain people, you ever watch the comedian Bill Burr? He's talking about like, well, I have this dog, and I didn't realize that every time I'm getting mad, the dog's getting mad, and he starts shaking some like his little, stuffed animal and stuff. Like he's getting mad, blah blah blah, and that's emitting to the dog my frustration. So when we go out to the street, he's going to go attack everybody, and that's kind of what happened to me because my dad, my adoptive father, kept us in a very secluded home. We weren't allowed to go out. I couldn't, what we were seeing going on or just hearing what's going on in other rooms, we were not putting together that's not normal. It was that's how bad it was. But
Right.
by the time I came back from school, I was coming back from a phase of like, okay, that didn't work out. I couldn't go back home because they didn't want me. I'm like, that's weird enough in and of itself. So I started going through a little bit of a phase. I'm being put into factory work, and I'm like, I'm not a machine. I'm a man. I'm a poet. I'm an actor. That's not me. I need to be with people. I need to talk like we're doing now.
Right.
And I eventually was getting to the point where I almost wanted to, do myself in because I was getting so frustrated with this isn't it. Everybody's saying just, get your job. I mean, yeah, it's about a paycheck. And I'm like, that's not me. And that's not what we're supposed to do. So I quit my job and I took like a 7 month hiatus from humanity, going through a huge depression spell. But I did a lot of prayer. I did a lot of reading in my Bible. I would sit in the shower sometimes almost for like 2 hours, just trying to process what was going on. And eventually I put together, I was like, oh, I just had it confirmed recently. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, okay, so that's what went on. So I didn't come to these conclusions just because it was like, no, what I'm seeing at my church, that's not right. What I'm reading
Right.
in this book and understanding it was Pagan Christianity by Frank Viola. And that book is I was like, yes, that's exactly how I felt. Like if you're going to church, why are you getting dressed up? Why are you paying the guy up there tithing money? Like I want to know, why do we do the things that we do? And
Mhm.
I'm finally coming out of this phase and I'm doing better. I'm dating people. It was great. It was phenomenal. Then COVID hits. And what I saw was everybody who worships a savior who conquered death wearing an emblem of fear on their face, scared to get within feet of each other because they'll kill grandma. And I says, you guys are all liars and hypocrites because this is me. I'm ready to go. Grandma,
Mm.
if you truly know him, who cares? We're not supposed to be afraid of death because we have eternity, remember? So why are we running around playing the world's game like that?
Right.
And I think, like you just said, that's for me was a bit my wake up call saying, what's here is not normal. What
Mm.
we're doing is hypocrisy. I would be condemning this church too, because this is not the testimony we should be emulating to the world. And I got kicked out of junior church. Like I said, your life should emulate Christ. I got kicked out of junior church because I was convicted. I said, I can't wear a mask in front of kids because that's basically my testimony saying I am scared of this invisible virus.
Right.
It's like, how can more people put faith in an invisible virus and not in an invisible God?
Uh,
And basically, I took a couple weeks off because I needed conviction. And when he saw me again, he's like, "Well, you're not going to show up regularly. I guess we're going to have to kick you out."
huh.
Again, man's rules. What does God say? You know what I'm saying? And that's where I came to the conclusion is that I think this is the path, the podcasting path that I've been taking is like I think that is having a bigger effect
Mhm.
and actually helping people than sitting in a pew idly and just listening to what the guy says behind the podium. That's
Oh,
not enough. It's not
absolutely.
enough.
And there are good priests and there are good men
Correct.
and women in
Absolutely. Yeah.
right. And Brandon, if you take that perspective, just like
Mm.
if you live a good life and you have the holy oil, you will receive the Holy Spirit, and then you go to heaven and you probably come back to earth again, right?
I personally would say no,
Okay.
because his kingdom is not of this world, even though a lot of evangelicals will be like, he comes back and he builds his kingdom in Jerusalem. Blah, blah, blah. I veer on that because
Right.
his
So
kingdom is not of this world. So why are we putting so much trust or faith in the existence of things of this world? That's a
mhm.
very Hermes. Is a you read the Emerald Tablets. He says basically a phrase is, "The Father of all perfection is here. This is it. I
Yeah.
am God." And I'm like, no, you're constantly
No, you're
Christ is
not.
saying, you don't put your emphasis on coins. Don't put your emphasis on the things and materialism of this world.
No, you don't
'Cause-
have anything about it.
Right.
When you are born, you got nothing, and everything you purchase in this life, whatever that is, you ain't gonna take it with you except
Correct.
a true soul with positive energy and with good deeds in it, and some wisdom probably. If you're going to take it to across the pond, or across the whatever, right? Because what I wanted to point out with that, as you said, just like, okay, the Holy Spirit, you go to heaven. Let's pretend that we go to heaven and we come back. That's also something that the pagans believe in, because we have a lot of symbolism, and probably you dig a lot of in that, and I love to talk about it.
Mhm.
A lot of symbols that we know nowadays are based on pagan symbols and about runes. Runes were a little bit later, but the symbolism of the pagans, just like the pentagram, which is a very
Yes.
positive thing. But there are some people who turn it around, and you got your horns on the up front, in yeah, up front, in the air. You got your horns in the air. Then it's like the Satan worshipping. But the pagans also believed in there's birth, there's life, and there's death. So you got this trilogy
Mhm.
constantly. And you got, of course, always duality. And what I want to try to point out is following. Um, I had a no, I have a question for you. I
Sure.
prepared myself a very good question, I think. Imagine you never had a Bible. Would you still believe in God, or in a God?
Is that the end of the question?
That was the yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if you didn't had a Bible, so you
Right.
have no religious scripture,
Right, 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 right.
would you still believe in a God?
I think so. And the reason I state that is because I was talking to an atheist buddy of mine, and he was saying, so I was like trying to challenge him because he's always challenging me. So I eventually came to this one. I said, "All right, so you're basically saying, by your own definition, that we come from a meteorite, crashed into Earth, we became some kind of sea, fish, sea creature, urchin thing, lizard comes on the ground, Neanderthal, monkey, man. That's what you're saying." He's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Okay, one question. All right, where did the meteorite come from?" "Space dust." "Okay." So I go through the whole thing again. We come, I says, "I can agree with you on that." Okay. And he's like, "All right." I said, "My question then is, where did the dust come from?" And he was stumped. I said, "Everything has to come from something.
Right.
Nothing comes from nothing. You know, nothing ever could." I mean, that's in this Sound of Music. That's one of my favorite lyrics. Is "Nothing comes from nothing, nothing ever could." So maybe I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, so you are saying we come from some space dust. Let's just pause there. Ours say we come from the dust of the earth, right? So man was made from the dust of the earth, and God breathed into him, and that's where life came into being. I said, so at the end of the day, even though you're an atheist and I'm a Christian, we both believe we became from dust. I'm like, exactly. But except mine acknowledges an artist, a creator, and an exact timeline. Whereas yours is always changing. A zero goes here, this goes there. I says, but me, it's standard. And even before I accepted Christ, there was just this thing where I was like, something definitely exists, because I was very intellectual even as a kid. And it was enough for me saying, like, I can see the tree, I can see the sun, I can see the sky, I can feel like, for your body should be able to tell you there's something more, that nothing just into nothing.
Right.
So therefore, if nothing comes from nothing, there's got to be a higher purpose. There's got to be a higher being above me. So even without the scripture or whatnot, it would be enough for me. Again, if I was back in those days, who knows where culture and whatnot. Paganism, yes, I probably would have tapped into something of a religious perspective, because something has to control everything.
Hmm.
There has to be a starting point.
Right.
There has to be some point where the pen, everything was gathered for that pen to work. So when you click on it, you can write. It's
Right.
not just poof. Oh, okay, cool. Other cultures, like you were saying with the pentagram, I can't say it's good, because Jeremiah 10:1-5 is condemning Christmas trees and star worship. Be not like the pagans who look to the stars.
Mhm.
Astaroth was tied to that. Astaroth, astrology. That's a big thing in the Syria region, then
And he said
Mesopotamia.
it didn't, shouldn't
You
look up.
shouldn't, yes, because
Why
it would
not?
connect to the first witch in the Bible, and witchcraft is condemned by God. Is that you're not supposed to contact the dead. You're not supposed to conjure and do stuff. You can still you like holistically. That's good because you
Hmm.
can still do good and you can do evil. Hence, the biting into the apple is understanding the other aspect of where you can make everything perverse, is where you
Hmm.
can corrupt everything and use it for evil. And God's like, you don't even, just use it for basic stuff. Like you
Uh-huh.
can still use some herbs. You can still, but it doesn't mean you go around and be like, get away, spirit, get away. Like,
No, 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 no.
yeah,
Well,
no, but
there's of course a big misperception about a lot of things in paganism. And it's good that we touch base on it because I love to
right.
talk about it, and let's see how it goes, you know.
Sure, sure.
Because if you're looking at history, they say, well, whatever Google says or Wikipedia, paganism was there in Mesopotamian times, and it's like 3,500 years before the Bible was there. So that was one point. The other point is, um, paganism is like a faith. It's not like a belief system. So if you're a pagan, which is a word given by
Yeah,
Christians,
I'm very adept. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, to people that live on the land, they they didn't worship the sun or the moon or whatever, but they knew about the seasons and how to grow crops, how to do the cattle and stuff like that. Um, but when Christianity came around, they took some of the traditions of the pagans, which we still know as Christmas and as Easter.
Yes.
Probably you
Yes.
would be against it as a real Christian. You would say, "Nah, you
Yes.
shouldn't do that, Christians, because that's not what God said." I think God never said something about Christmas either.
Right.
Even the day that Jesus Christ was born isn't 25 of December.
No, that's the doppelganger.
Yeah, that's a doppelganger. Oh, there he is. Everything is in duality, ladies and gentlemen. So be careful what you think. And what I also saw in history is that the churches or the altars that been built by the pagans too, when they did something for fertility or for the crops, that they had a good harvest and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, when they prayed to their gods or whatever, and they got good crops and fertility, a baby and stuff like that, they made an altar and a church. But later on, Christianity took these churches over and they still built the churches. What's your
Yes.
take on that?
Oh, I love it. That no, I literally have like 18 books on my shelf over there, and I'm still going through a couple of them, digging into that. And again, a lot of Christianity, I would say, is Catholicism. Catholicism worships basically they're like, we don't like your paganism, so we're just going to adapt it to be ours, make it the state religion. And
Right.
that was very much the Sol Invictus and stuff. What I try to explain to people with the pagan definition is that it's basically picture it like this as an analogy is that a young lady marries a really rich, wealthy old man. She marrying him for his money? More than likely, it's security. But this is kind of how this is how I would define paganism is that you're putting more emphasis on the old man for his materialism, not on his experience, not on his wisdom, not on, the other values. It's like devaluing the man himself for
Mhm.
everything else he can contribute into the relationship. I would say, in contrast, that's basically saying, I appreciate this element. I appreciate what this thing can contribute into my life, but I'm not going to acknowledge the creator. I'm going to worship this aspect of the creator without actually defining the creator.
Mhm.
And that's where I would tap into that. With the Catholic Church, I'm laughing because what they started doing is they one took all the temples and basically just made oh, it's Mithraic temple. Now we're just going to put Christian label on it and there we go. And
Right.
it was like it's the same thing. That is Mithraic. Like Mithraicism is Catholicism at its core, and that's also a lot of American politics. Even with the red caps these days, Mithra followers wore red caps. The Sons of Liberty wore red caps.
Huh.
Yeah, and it meant freedom and like libertas. It was all within that realm. What Catholicism did, they basically took saint and compromising, with the Catholic Church, they demolished and dismantled the whole premise of Christianity,
Mhm.
which is by definition set apart. You're not supposed to be like over there. You're not supposed to be like these people. You're supposed to be appreciating the one creator God. What they did by creating statues, what they did by creating saints, they monotheized Christianity with the creation of saints. And it was basically a charlatan's trick. It was just like merely ushering in a camouflage paganism. That's what a lot of modern Christianity or Catholicism, I would say, is at its core.
Right.
It's
Right. Yeah.
camouflage paganism, like you just said, with all the tradition. That's why, yeah, I've dug into it, and I'm like, guys, no, that has not good connotations because you're basically saying, oh, it's okay. And then I ask you, why do you put up the tree? It's just like, well, we did it when we were kids, and it's like, but where does it come from? I
Right.
go to the source. I want to know why I do the thing I do
Yeah.
because the Bible says I'm not supposed to do that. But a lot of Christians, like again, I was going to my church and they're over here, the pancake breakfast like a day after Easter, something like that. And I'm looking at Jeremiah. It says they made cakes unto Ashtaroth. Ashtaroth is an equivalent of Ishtar, and they made cakes unto her. And I'm like, guys, you're doing the same freaking thing. I don't care if you call yourselves Baptists. It's still paganism. And it's
Right.
been condemned before. So again, a lot of Christians like it's in the Bible, but when I bring it up, you say that's a conspiracy theory. Why?
Mm.
So I would say is like look no further than the very definition of Catholicism, because that's known as the universal church of Christ. And again, universal is totally compromised of its very theology. Universal connects to the cathode. Cathode connects to the moon, the black
Right.
hole, in the bottom of the flat Earth
Yeah. The
thing. That's on
negative
the right.
energy.
That's exactly what that comes to. Is the black hole. That's what cathode means, is moon energy. So you're literally telling me, Queen of the Heavens, like I stated before, moon goddess with stars, moon and stars. And we have the sun, so son of God, sun God. They merged the two. They basically said, okay, we got Christ. This is known as the whore of Babylon in Revelation. What's a whore?
Well.
Somebody who's giving you a false love. It's not what you think it is.
Right.
You're lying in the bed, but what are you getting from it? It's not commitment. It's not marriage. It's not evolving. It's literally saying, I just, I love your ideologies. And everybody's like, well, the Antichrist is going to be very popular. But every time you look at Isis and Horus sucking at the teat, Semiramis and Tammuz sucking at the teat, Virgin
Mhm.
Mary, and what's he doing? Sucking at the teat of the system.
Right.
And that's what a lot of Christianity is doing. That's why I said you nurse at the whore of Babylon's tit while you're
So
kissing the feet of the synagogue of Satan, which is Z's. And I'm like, guys, this is what I'm telling you about. You guys are you're
worshiping the
condoning
yeah.
what's going on in Gaza or bombing and whatnot. And I'm over here going, that's not of Christ. And you can't go up there and be like, well, didn't we do this in your name? He's gonna say, depart from me. I never knew you. That's an
Right.
actual verse. That is
So
the sleeping bridesmaids saying, you guys didn't get it. You were basically taking my book, justifying your misdeeds in my name.
right. So
That
so
is condemned.
am I correct, Brandon, that you are then on a spiritual warrior's path against the false ideology of Christianity?
Absolutely. I literally
Right.
call myself a sheepdog because what's a sheepdog by definition? A sheepdog nips at the heels of the sheep. Everybody's like, oh, you need a shepherd, and and it's like pastors only mentioned, but it's listed with like 6 other titles
Hmm.
of what Christianity is. And I'm trying to explain to him, but he's like, well, I'm not really. I'm like, dude, every time I call you, you answer your phone. Every time Jessie calls you, she's going through depression. You answer the phone for her. Do you know how many people just go, I'll get to them later? It says you're always available. That's something of a Christian spirit is I'm going to be available when somebody needs, something of that nature. It might be a different aspect and
Mhm.
perspective. That's why it's called a body of Christ, a congregation. And
Right.
I would say I'm a sheepdog in the aspect of is like, yeah, sure, you got your nice little pastor, and that's the good people in the church, whatever. But pastor also means somebody that's going to help you. So if you're around me, yes, I can't do everything digitally because that takes a lot of time and work and whatnot.
Right. Right.
But what if you're around me? Yes, I'll be there. But what does a sheepdog do? They help the shepherd by nipping at the heels of the sheep. That's what we're supposed to do. Because culturally, right now, I'm not seeing anybody talking about the New World Order. I'm not hearing people talk about what's going on at CERN at my church. We're just
Nope.
going through the motions. And I'm over here. What's a sheepdog do? They nip and they keep you moving. If something comes to attack the herd, they're going to attack that. Now, do
Right.
people appreciate the sheepdog? No. Why are you biting me? Because I'm telling you to stop sitting. I'm telling you to start moving. Because if you sit,
Right.
you're going to get bit. Oh, I should write that down. But you know
Mm.
what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
how
yeah,
I
but we
see
got
it.
it now on tape, so.
But the ideology behind that, yes, I'm very much against people lying. And I think that stems, honestly, from my own childhood.
Hmm.
Is I was lied to about what a good home is. Like this, my mom's an alcoholic, my dad's messing with my sisters. You're telling me this is a normal home?
Yeah, can be.
No.
No.
And that's what, again, I think that emulates into my faith is that they're lying to you. That news host is basically giving you a word salad, and then you become a parakeet. You repeat that phrase because you don't know how to think for yourself. And
Right.
that's all you regurgitate. When I give you a book, no, no, I don't have time for that. When I give you something that's contrary to the narrative that you're getting, oh, so I support the terrorists. No, but I'm trying to wake you up that your faith is being misguided. And I'm showing you with scripture where it is. And a lot of people since 2020 ignore, scroll. Oh, I didn't see it.
Oh, yeah. Or
That's
you give something like a little video, just like, look at this. And
yes.
after 1 minute, you go, oh, this is bullshit. Well, the
Right.
video was 1.5 hours long. So how could you say that it's bullshit when you didn't dig into it? And you don't have to agree with it, but just look,
Correct.
how about this perspective?
Mhm.
How about this? Or this is my belief system. Dig into that. Why not? You don't have to be, getting into my church or in my belief system or my
Yes.
faith. No, no, no. Just look at how it is, because you only can connect your own dots and your own plausible reality and your own plausible truth if you dig into a lot of stuff that you maybe not so familiar with or
Mhm.
don't want to dig into because it's like, I don't, it's for me, it's only holy moly or it's crap or whatever you're going to take. But if you
Yes.
don't dig into that, you can't say the only thing that I have is like the book or the preacher or that what I saw on television or whatever.
Yes.
That's my belief system and my truth, because that can be. You should always learn learn from what you think, but also learn from other what their belief system is. Like, okay, hold on, I'm not going to say that you're bad or that whatever. Let me, what's your take on this or what's your take on that?
Yes.
Like, I was talking to an atheist and I said to him, so you believe that you don't have a belief system, you don't believe in a creator? And he said, yeah. I said, that's a fucking belief system, brother, because you believe in that there's no creator. That's a
Yes.
belief system.
Yes.
I mean, how to debunk an
Mm.
atheist?
Right. Right. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. And especially when I walk around in nature, uh, I see that there's God. I see the
Yes.
seasons. I see everything around it. I see. I can connect the dots, and it brought me closer to God. I'm not saying God like the biblical way or something like that, but there is a creator that made all this awesome stuff. We can see that if you go, and that's very funny. Well, funny, it's a very interesting story, fascinating story. My girlfriend, she works in at a mental disease hospital, right? So, and she did also work with other patients, let's say,
Mhm.
and a lot of them were struggling with some mental issues. In autumn, there are fields of Amanita muscaria, the red and white mushroom.
Okay.
And they're nowadays they are investigating into LSD and into psilocybin, mescaline, um, how to treat patients with that, with traumas and stuff like that.
Yes.
That's fascinating. It just like, okay, here's the building, they're all screwed. Let's say that, and God said, "Hey, I got an ancestor popping out of the ground. There it
Yes.
is, right there it is." But what they do is they're gonna cut it, everything.
Yes. Yep.
But if you look very closely, you're walking, in my perspective, in the Garden of Eden. It doesn't matter if it's going to be in Mesopotamia, which is Iraq, Iran, or in Florida, or whatever place. You're walking right on it.
Yeah.
And if you dig into that, and like you said, with herbs, and like you said, with the right kind of people and the right minded people, and people that could listen, even if they don't agree with your perspective. That's the church, ladies and gentlemen. You don't need a building for that, just to have a great night and just to say, okay, what about this? What about that? How do you see this? How do you see that? And I think that we're very lost in um, translation with a lot of things, with belief systems, with who we are as a human, where we're
Yes.
capable of. What is energy? I can see energy every single morning, because this morning was my alarm clock like 5:30. I was, yeah, 5:30. That's quite in the middle of the night for me.
Mm-hmm.
But you hear the birds shabbering, the first birds, and you see the sun going rising up. You see the flowers open up. Even if you see like 15 minutes, when just when the sun comes up and the birds are chirping, you just see how it's just like, I love that.
Yes.
That's for me, that's the Garden of Eden. What's your
Yes.
take on that? What's your take on that?
Oh, I have a spot at a park, and it's right by a river, and especially in fall, it's my favorite. But there's this tree that fell down. It has a little bit of like a split, so it ends up being like a log, and that's my little crux. That's where I lean back, I read my book, I listen to the water, I watch nature, I see a squirrel chase another squirrel. That for me is like you just said. That is heaven. That's Eden. And I've told people, I said, if that's what I get in heaven, I'm a scribe, just writing down something that I'm happy. I would be more than happy, because it's simple. And I've even wrote, I know it sounds silly, but it's like, who knows? Maybe the choirs in heaven sound like frogs chirping. Yeah, because
And Ronnie James Dio is singing.
but it's simple. And I think maybe that's like the first chapter, being introduced to God, is appreciating the things that are around you, is appreciating what, breath, like the fact that you're breathing. It said that that was the first word came out of Adam's mouth when he breathed into him, was Yahweh.
Right,
And that was the
right.
first. And so every time you take a breath, you're saying your creator's name. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, wow. And how often we're just, take, 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 take. And we never stop to say, thank you.
Right.
That's honestly what it comes down to. Is a lot of people are saying, "Oh, the tree, thank you, tree," and that's a lot of times where it taps into the pagan aspect of things. Is they start saying it's a celestial portal to heaven because it gives us oxygen. So you start worshiping the tree, or the Druidism. You start worshiping the tree more than you worship Creator God, who created the tree. Or you chop down the tree and you bring it in. You think it's going to channel some energy and good vibes into your home. And this is where people are putting the emphasis on the idolatry. They make a statue, they start coveting an element
Mhm.
as opposed to appreciating the creator of everything.
I think I think differently. I think that the pagans and the Druids are very aware of what God created. They only have multiple gods. So it's not like there's only one creator. They say, I think probably in a perspective, there is a creator that created everything, but we have several gods where we can ask questions to, and that guides us in life, than only one God. I think that's a little bit more the perspective I think about, especially when you look at these paganism and Druidism,
Mm-hmm.
how close to nature they are. They are really the pagans, so the people of the land, you know. And there's a lot of gods in paganism. When you want to ask them for a favor or whatever, you give them an offer like berries or like meat. It depends on what god, like Thor is Thursday today, so shout out to Thor. He was the guy with the hammer, of course. He
Mm-hmm.
likes a big meal and a good pint of beer. So if you want to shout out to that god, or you want to have guidance from him, you gave him an offer like that, like a meal or whatever. And then you have other there's a Frigg. She was uh, a goddess of the mountains, like skiing and hunting. She is
Mm-hmm.
always pointed out with an arrow and bow. She likes to have like game, you know. If you have something like game, she loves that, so she will come around probably. So they I think they have other way to interact with nature, but be aware of that's been created by several creators. Or, well, Odin, the All Father, created a lot, of course, they say. And it brings back to Mesopotamia. That's a word. You
Mesopotamia.
should scrabble that one. Mesometopian times. I think you know what I'm trying to say here,
I
right?
got you.
Ah, shit. It's sometimes very hard to pronounce the words, but
Yes.
I I think that's very good possible that we all lost connection with nature, no matter what belief system. Just like the Buddha, he was a big guy with a big fat belly, so he loves to eat and to drink stuff, and he was always laughing. Well, if I have a full meal and a full stomach every single day, I would laugh also, right? But the connection to Buddha is not like the image of Buddha, but he was just like sitting on a fucking mountaintop all alone. Well, what was surrounded about him? Nature. What does it does to you if you take a walk and you take a long walk so you hear nothing, only nature? Then you are alone, all one. Then you can deep into your own system or deep dive into your own system and listen to your own voice. A lot of people are very scared about that voice because, silence. Oh my God. Even if I go out here in the woods, I'm living in a very dense part of the world. When I hear the bird chirping and stuff like that, some water and stuff like that, I still hear the roar of society,
Mhm.
the highway that's connected to somewhere like a few miles away. That's not silence, people.
Right.
That's not silence. That's unfortunately. But I think that to get back to where we're coming from, that the real nature of ourselves and the real nature of nature connects us with the gods, whatever God that is. And if it's going to be one God, perfectly fine. If it's going to be a different God than the God that I'm pronouncing or you're pronouncing, Brandon, perfectly fine. But we should be aware of everything is already there, but you have to look, you have to see, and you have to see the symbolism, especially the symbolism about stuff that they're trying to put us up and shove us down the throat, because they do that on a very high level gaming plan and they are almost successful with it. But luckily, we have people like Brandon, we have people like doing a podcast, spitting out the truth, and to make people realize that there are other things to think about or to dig into.
Hmm.
And
Well, to tap into, if sorry, if I
yeah,
may,
no, go ahead, because I'm
um,
slamming coffee.
no, with Buddha, there's one quote that I really liked by him that was, often the teacher will come to point the way, but the student ends up worshiping the teacher rather than walking the way. To paraphrase.
Mhm.
And I would say other gods that would tap into the Anunnaki just in general. With a lot of people in Christianity, they tend to just jump down that it was just God sitting up there by himself. Then he created, is like it says in Genesis 6:4 that the sons of God came down and had affairs with the daughters of men. We fast forward to New Testament. Behold, what manner the love of the Father that we should be called the sons of God. Why? Because the former council came down. They wanted pleasure. They wanted to have a materialistic form. They wanted to have sex and create the Nephilim or the giants or whatever. And that's where we get that lore from. And so God
Mhm.
locked them up under the river Euphrates until the time of the end. Your river Euphrates is down to a foot right now. Why? Because when God said, all right, so in Enoch, it says, your kids, when they're slain, the Nephilim, they're going to roam the earth for 70 generations at the time of the end. Demon does not come from a fallen angel. It comes from a fallen giant. Daemon, Daemon. That is
Right.
the root server for all your computers. They want bodies back. And as Christians, what does that mean? Well, I've proved by living my life, true ones, that I love God more than the materialism of this world.
Hmm.
So God says, okay, you've been reborn. Now you can come up here and you're going to take the fallen God's position, or my former counsel. You're going to take their spot because you proved that you love me more than fleshly pleasures of this world. Everybody else might worship them. They might consult them. That's what paganism is. They might want that, but I don't want that for you. Meanwhile, what does Earth get? Okay, so if we can just all come together and do kumbaya, we can ascend and achieve our own God consciousness. We don't really need him. And what happens? They're going to, again, if you go by revelation, they accept this mark of the beast. What is the beast? He's 666, but his followers are 616 of the beast. One I could equal A right here, your pineal gland. I can ascend. That's on Baphomet's forehead. Why? Because I'm next to Hermeticism. Don't believe me? Then look at why his manhood is the Caduceus staff that connects to Thoth, that connects to Hermes. Hermes was known as the guy who carried souls to Hades,
Hmm.
hell, Cernunnos, Osiris. So if you people want this, so it's like, look at it this way. Christians, you've proved your loyalty, so you come up and you get the spiritual. Whereas if you want the materialism towards the end, the demons, they're going to possess you.
Hmm.
So it's because why? Because they want your body. So it's gonna be like Mr. Smith can go through anybody. Why? Because it's demonic possession grid.
Right.
They can go through anybody. To tap in what you were saying with Thor and whatnot, that connects into the Hermetic tree of life. And I just
Hmm.
said that Hermes is not a good guy, but the Hermetic tree of life. You look at the Kabbalah, very bottom, it's Malkut. That's supposed to be the savior that they wanted, not Christ. There's a reason why they put him on a tree, the Hermetic tree of life. What's at the very top? Corona. If you translate it from Kether, Kether is Hebrew. Corona is the Latin variation. We just
Ah,
had a
yeah.
corona epidemic. Coronis and Hermes used to be close. Now it's funny. Trump happens to have a variation of Adonis, Donald. His last name, Triumph. If you go to the Greek mask god of theater, he
Uh-huh.
was half brother to Apollo. Apollyon, son of destruction. Apollo. Apollo 11 that went up to allegedly the moon.
Uh-huh.
What was his twin sister? Artemis, goddess of sudden death,
Oh, yeah. Oh.
died suddenly. So let's go back to Thor. One of his things that he's affiliated with is the yew tree.
Hmm.
That should be the proper word instead of the J word, Jew. It's
No,
supposed to be you because they worship tree worship, Hermeticism. We can achieve our own immortality without creator God. So if Thor is tying into Hermeticism, and again, I can pull up this encyclopedia book. I took a screenshot of it because people
no Wikipedia.
no, it's encyclopedia of symbolisms and signs, and it's written by somebody that's neutral. They're not written. It's just breaking that all down. And I'm thinking to myself, so if Thor connects to this, and then what we get with Odin? Odin sacrificed his eye for wisdom. Thoth is known as the god of wisdom. When the celebrities are doing this,
Right.
they're saying, I love the wisdom of man. I love the wisdom of the gods of this world. I don't
Hmm.
need a creator god. And Zechariah says, woe unto those who follow the shepherd with the one eye. What was another name for Tammuz? Dumozid, a Sumerian goat shepherd god.
Mhm.
What did Christ known as? Shepherd of his sheep. It says in Matthew 25, I'm going to separate the sheep from the goats. Why? Because he
Right.
followed Baphomet, pansexual, hermaphrodite, androgynous, hermaphrodite, Hermes,
Right.
pandemic, pandemonium.
But Thor also had two goats, and he was real pissed off when somebody did something to his goats.
Exactly. But it all ties into it. That's why I said to people, when you get a migration, and we were talking with Druidism, what was the first trick? Do you remember in the Bible where Moses goes into the Pharaoh, let my people go, and he throws down his staff?
Uh-huh. And the water
Well,
separated.
no, his staff turned into a snake. That's the first one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. He goes to Pharaoh. And what do the magicians do? They come over and they do the same thing. Why? Because alchemy. They know Thoth. They know how to do this stuff. But Moses' snake consumes theirs.
Hmm.
So their symbolism continues. The children
Right.
they leave Egypt, and what happens? They start building a golden calf. Where were calves affiliated with? Apis bull. You want to look at Janus, looking forward, looking back, it's Apis and Osiris.
Mhm.
They build a calf. What's a calf? The symbolism of young Nimrod, Tammuz. We want another leader. It symbolized leadership. So they're saying we don't need a creator god. So when Moses comes down, he's over here and he throws down the 10 Commandments, like, what are you guys doing? We left that, and now you
Right.
guys are going right back to worshiping that. We don't
Ah,
stop.
somebody fucked it up.
Aaron, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
And I think that, again, and what do we get? Gradually, the soothsayers and everybody that's in the Mesopotamian Egypt region, they say, we're not needed here. So they start migrating north. They become known as, tree worshippers, yew tree, yew hermeticus. So it starts traveling. And what do we get by the time we get to Ireland? We get the Cromcruic. And if, again, don't take my word for it. This is the first thing I'm stating. I don't want you to just be like, oh, no. Cromcruich. They were a group that were very radical about their snake god religion. And what is allegedly St. Patrick known for? Driving the snakes out of Ireland. Look at the caduceus staff. It's got the snake on it.
Mhm.
Hollywood. Why is
You
there
would.
stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame shaped like pentagrams? Why in
Right.
Samhain, Samhain, Halloween, why did they go around and take kids and sacrifice them?
Right.
This is where I start going. Why would you? And again, Baal worship did that. And I suspect this is connected to modern Adroni. I'm not going to say the full word, but I suspect that would tie into, all right, I want immortality, so I'll sacrifice my first son. And I also want to live for a very long life on this one, so I'll drink some of that blood.
But if you connect the dots like that, Brandon, so when you take it from the Anunnaki and other religions involved, and then somebody wrote the Bible, or several people wrote the Bible, but when you connect these dots, there's a lot of similarity in the same story, but that's a crazy word, interpreted it also differently.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, if you look at I got a King James Bible.
Okay.
I haven't studied it yet, but it's like a book of a lot of knowledge, a lot of insights, and a lot of people to hold on, right? But it depends on how you
read it.
How you read it exactly. But
yes.
there's in the back you can see for every single day of the year you can see some phrases, some psalms, which connects to the complete Bible.
Yeah,
that interested me a while ago because I was thinking, how could they wrote a book at, well, let's say 2,000 years ago, whatever, right? That still lined up exactly just like today. So what if we go like 100 years back in time, 200 years back in time, maybe 500 years back in time, would people that read the same book have the same perception of the reality that was going on that time as we have now? Just like, oh, wait a minute, here's the sieve, here's this. No, you're looking at the wrong things. How about that?
I love it. I think you'd really like the book Pagan Christianity because it taps into that stuff, and it went after Martin Luther, and I was like, yes, finally, because he even called churches mouth houses, where basically the parishioner is supposed to come in and just listen to me. And I was like, well, that's very arrogant of you. And again, I laugh because the irony is a lot of controlled opposition from the Vatican or Jesuits. Why is it always starting in Germany, like Marx and whatnot? It's just like, why? You just notice a pattern.
Always the Germans.
It's always the Germans. I got some Brit Scott roots, a little bit of Finnish, so I can say such things.
Me too. I'm half German, so.
Oh, see, there you go. I got a last name that's German.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when Kroll is.
Yes, there was a guy at my one of my old jobs, and he was like, oh, so the people who pay us are from Germany. He's like, yes, but they're a day behind. I said, they're a day behind. I said, well, no wonder they lost the war. He's like, I'm not sure if that's racist. I said, it's not racist, as I got a German last name. I don't care.
Right. And if you think about it, did they really lost the war? I mean, look
It wasn't even
around
like
you,
it's
people.
just like the Catholic Church. It never dissolved, or it just ended up becoming an empire, and everybody was kissing the rings. Again, it was the state religion that keeps the
Yeah.
soul invictus. That's the sun god worship, and everybody had to kiss the Pope's hand. And everybody was like, no. But
Ah,
sorry, to get back to what you were saying.
yeah.
Um, could people understand it? And I think yes, because when you look into, if I did have to pick a denomination, it would probably be Anabaptist or Methodist. Methodist is because you're actually applying. Anabaptists, they were hated by Catholics and by Martin Luther, the start of the Protestants. So if you're getting stones cast at you at the two most prominent religions at the time and being executed or advocated for such, you're going against us, I would say yes, because somebody along the way is saying, no, what you are pushing as mainstream is not correct. It's not right. And
Right.
if both sides are hating you, again, once more, they're not going to love you. First, they persecuted me. They're also going to persecute you as my followers. That's literally what Christ said. So if true followers are always going to be persecuted, it's like that's how you can kind of gauge, am I walking the right walk? One, if you're
Yeah.
convicted, yes. Two, if you're actually sacrificing things in your life, yes. Three, if you're offending everybody, you might be on the right path. Now, it doesn't mean offend everybody in the sense that you punch somebody or whatnot. No, but
No, no.
your opinions are so radical to the point that it irks everybody that's around you. That
Hmm.
I would say is yes. You can start seeing that's a guy I want to follow, or that's somebody I want to emulate because what he's got, that's what I want to do too.
Oh.
That's what Christianity I think should be. Is again, it's one on one. We can have a conversation. You're just like, well, I don't know if I agree 100%, but I'm going to dig into what you said because it's making me think from a different perspective. Because I see mainstream and I know that ain't it. But what
Hmm.
you're pitching makes a little bit more sense to me. That's
Right.
what I try to do in my presentations is don't take my word for it. You see this, you see that. Okay, now let's show you some books so you can dig into this yourself.
Hmm. Right.
Does
I
that answer
think
your
that
question?
I think it's time for a little bit of bad German joke.
Oh,
Knock knock.
who dare?
We ask the questions.
That's
If
messed
you
up.
do that live, you can smack somebody against the head. We ask the questions. I
Nice.
love
That
that
reminds me of
one.
the Carol Burnett show. I love it. You remember the one with the little puppet?
Oh
Where he
yeah.
has little Hitler puppet. Look at the Carol Burnett show where they had the little Hitler puppet when they're interrogating somebody. It's hysterical.
Oh, I gotta write that down. How it's
Yes.
called?
Carol Burnett show. Put Tim Conway Hitler puppet. I guarantee you're gonna bust it. It's two Luftwaffe, not SS officers. They're interrogating an American prisoner, and he pulls out this little puppet. He's smacking him with a pencil.
Right. And I mean, if we're talking about the Germans, we go back to deceiving. We go NASA, von Braun. I mean, there's so much out there, and it's not only about like religion that we're going to talk about, but also these things. And I think that's what you trying to point out there also, right? Just like
Yeah.
it's not only like uh you believe in the wrong Christ, or you do the faith or the belief system on a wrong thing. Just look at this. Look
Yes.
at that. Wait a minute. The Pope. I mean, this dirty man's little ring. You want to really kiss it? I mean, that's. I mean, even in Corona times, probably he did all the time this, but no mouth cap, no nothing. It's unbelievable.
Well, and again, that's where it comes down to. If you're critical thinking, you start asking those questions. Why is this guy so rich? Why is
Hmm.
this guy wearing robes? Did Christ wear these kind of? No. Even when people are going like, "Oh, you should convert to the Orthodox Church," I'm like, they still got like statues, they still got fancy paintings, they still got a guy that they look up to, still got the fancy robes. I'm like, I just call it, and it's like a was it Eastern equivalent of the
Mhm.
same thing. It's like how the Roman Empire split into. It's the same thing. That's why. And again, is their theology a little bit better? I don't know, but this is where I come down to is Christians shouldn't judge. Well, it's like yes, we're supposed to judge false teachers, but it doesn't mean we have to execute. It doesn't mean, but we can call them out.
Hmm.
We can actually say something what we don't like, and if they are upset, like that's what I tell people. I says, you want to become popular? You want to know rule number one? Call out the top dog. Call it somebody who's famous, the politician, your favorite news host. Do it. Why? Because I guarantee you, you'll get people start thinking, well, why? What makes you so good? Well, yeah. Why? Because you don't have a status. This is how our
Right.
culture thinks. You don't have a status. You don't have a degree. Who are you? And it's like, I'm just another individual that knows how to read. What did they do for years in the Catholic Church? They're saying it all in Latin.
Yeah.
Now they're scared because people can read. What do they have it now? You're so bombarded with entertainment, you
Hmm.
never bother to open your Bible. It's like,
Oh,
don't say God is silent when your browser is open, but your Bible is closed.
have you seen God showing up on my podcast? He did. I was talking to Milton Ocampo, and Milton was sitting in his room, and behind him was a window, right? I put it out on Instagram, I think. And I have always 12 questions for my guest. So
Okay.
I was asking one of the questions, and he answered my question. And Milton was sincerely, from his belief system, he was talking to me and answering the question.
Okay.
When he said the phrase, maybe uh maybe God is hiding from us, a big light came out of that window, and it was like the complete room was filled with light. Not kidding you. Just like, wow. Then the other day, like a week later, I had a interview with Libby Liberty, which is also on Instagram. And I was telling that about the podcast and that the light showed up behind Milton. And what he said, just like, oh, maybe God is hiding from us. And then all of a sudden, a freight train ran next to her house, just like, he's not hiding at all. He's just right there. You just have to ask him, just call him out.
Yes.
I love that. I
When I
love that.
accepted Christ, I was 12 years old, and I remember it was on this river, and we went down to the third bench. It was on the left, and I said the phrase, "I want you to steer the helm of my ship," because I was big into pirates at the time. And right when I said that, I was like, and I jumped. My dad didn't even see me, but like supernatural. Like it was literally like, what the hell was that? And I used to have this anger that I think I inherited from my birth father from all the stories that I've gathered. And this anger was like it was like I was like Hulk. If you put me in a room and I was angry, give me something to hold, I'll start swinging. And it suddenly felt like whatever was on my heart, whatever was on my shoulders, it felt lighter. And I tell people like, even if I was on the fence and I was just, it was like, no, there was a change right there. I felt it. My anger started to again. The people saw my character and actions. Like my sister testified in junior church. Like the teen teacher was saying, like you're going to see changes, yada yada. And I was like, I had that. And the teacher looked at my sister and he's just like, oh yeah, it definitely changed. And he's like, the fact that your sister was backing up what you're saying is evidence there was a change
Right,
in your life.
right.
So again, he's hiding from it. Well, not really. He's invisible, but you see his creation and you should see his disciples because they're living word. They're emissaries. They're celestial ambassadors.
Hmm.
That's what it should be. But a lot of people, like I said, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the Christian.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What's your take, Bren, on if you look at the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve,
Yeah.
uh, Eve was. I was asking that same question to Adrian, who was a preacher or pastor also. Um, there was this snake in a tree talking to Eve,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden, all my red herrings go up, right? Just like, oh, wait a minute, because the snake was telling to Eve to bite from the apple.
Mm-hmm.
And when God figured it out, he said, you, snake, are going to crawl for the end of your life until the end of your life on with, to the dust.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, I don't recall a religion that has talking animals. Second of all, a snake that is in a tree was a snake before, right? And what if that was a cow? Would we say the cows are bad right now? Um, and a snake doesn't eat an apple. I think there are no snakes on this world that eat vegetables. So,
Yes.
even they can get a grip on it. So an animal or stuff like that, they can get a grip on it and eat it. But an apple is
Yes.
round, just like, well, what's your take on that? What do you think that the real reason behind that is?
Well, Satan in basic definition means like opposer, someone who's against. It doesn't necessarily mean a serpent. Um, why they say it's an apple or forbidden fruit is because when you cut it in half in the equator, it's supposed to equal 5 points of the pentagram.
Hmm.
So the 5 points of man, which again, it would be equal three for the extra digit for man between the legs, and then female is the other two. When merged together, that is the number of man, or five. That's why it's on Baphomet's forehead, is the illusion that man thinks they can achieve. 2030, again, 2 plus 0 plus 3 plus 0, 5.
Aha.
And they want a new world order by then. So again, and again, 365, 3 plus 6, 9, 6 plus 5, 11, 9, 11. That was coronation day in ancient Israel for kings. Certain Antichrist figure was coordinated on that day. And yes, I have a whole presentation locked and loaded for that, but we're not talking about that.
Right.
But to go back what you said with the serpent, it's alleged that Lucifer, Azazel, whatever you call it, he was one of the guardians of the throne, and their visual look and appearance was that of a similar to a serpent, or they had scales.
Hmm.
We always picture angels as they're all clean, but how do you know God didn't have some of them have look, well, we'll make this one a little bit like this. We'll make this one a little bit like that. And there's several different groups and tiers of angels. So I think symbolically, he says, like that animal, I'm going to have that be the representation of you and what you are like. And then what do we get all of a sudden? The caduceus, the kundalini,
Right.
all this stuff in the tree. And again, Leviathan, Malkut, like I said at the bottom of the Hermetic Tree of Life, all serpent, all Ouroboros coming back. What is that? At the crux of the Ouroboros is an X,
Hmm.
reborn, rebirth, regeneration, reincarnation. Nimrod's family saw themselves as avatars. Remember, we're getting all this in social media. Create your own avatar. Why?
Oh.
So you can become like gods. Again, what was Satan's thing? He cast out because I can ascend like the God Most High. That's what he'd want his followers to do, right?
Hmm.
But in truth, that's only for the you worshippers. And I say that with tree emphasis, not the ethnicity, but
Hmm.
that's what they love. That's what they believe. Fine. But what's going to happen? They're going to get duped and get probably filled with daemon, fallen beings because they want spirits. So they're going to sign this contract thinking they're getting something and they're going to get lied to.
Hmm.
So that's what people are tapping into. And again, serpent, it's a lie. It's an opposer. And I
Right.
think if anything, the snake was more of a symbolic,
Hmm.
because this is what you
Yeah,
look
because
like. This is
snakes
your
are not
appearance.
evil in the first place, for my
Correct.
perception.
But I think also with the venom aspect is the
Yeah.
venom of an ideology. What does it do? It starts swelling. It starts, and I think
Yeah.
that's what people don't seem to equate is again, you look down in the vagina region, you stretch it out and stuff like that. It kind of looks like the open mouth of a snake. I saw something
Oh,
like that the other
yeah.
day. I was like, well, and maybe again, maybe that was another aspect because we seem to lose the metaphors and the symbolism that God constantly uses. It says they're doing this, I'm going to do something like that. Like, they're sacrificing their kids. I'm going to have Abraham, or sorry, who is it? Was it Abraham? Oh yeah, offered Isaac upon the altar.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden he
yeah,
stops him. He's like,
I
don't you
think it
think
was. Yeah.
it was symbolic? It was says they're doing that. I want to know if you'd go to that extent for me. I just want to see if you trust me. And then he stops him intentionally. I don't want you to go through that. I just wanted to see where was your heart and mind at. I wanted to know if you were willing to go to
Right.
this extent. I will provide the sacrifice. What do we get later on? The same thistle bush that caught the ram so he could sacrifice it. That was the same thistle bush that they probably made the crown that went on Christ's head.
Hmm.
Symbolic. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what, and I'm glad you pointed it out because there's so much symbolism, but you have to see it, and
You have to
but you
dig.
can only see
Yes.
that if you dig into in your own world right now. We're talking to a black mirror, first of all. Yeah,
Right,
I
right.
said it last in a podcast. I think it was with the podcast with Milton. I said every Christian who has an iPhone,
Mm-hmm.
hypocrites, because they have the bite of the apple
Right.
in their hands, the deceiving of their belief system in their hands. Not saying that Android, because I got a Chinese one, so they're listening. So we've been probably bigger in China than in the rest of the world because China's listening to us. But
Yes.
but we have to be aware, just like you said, what is meant by some texts, what is the contradiction, what is the mythology behind it, and what's the symbolism behind it to understand what's been written down. Because it's not like a book like, oh, Hansel and Gretel went down, and even that is a very deep little story fairy tale, right?
Yes.
And there's
Yes.
always something lying beneath that. But we have to dig into that. We can't see, and especially now in this waking up or whatever area you're going to call or going to tell that it is, we have to not scratch the surface. We have to dig deep down. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. And then you got something like what we have now, like a conversation, which I
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yes. Yes.
uh, that you can point out some things and that people have something to listen to and to think, oh, shoot, wait a minute, oh yeah. And there are so many things that are known already, but there are so many things that we don't know about. If it's going to be the poisoning of our water, oh, that there are no chemtrails, but there are some trials that some governments want to ban them. So there are none, but governments want to ban them. So what about all these critical thinkers, as I call myself, preferably,
Mm,
that said that, and everyone said, "Oh, you're crazy."
right.
Well, some say I'm crazy. I guess I'll always be. But no one comes back to me, knocks on my door, or gives me just like this little text message. Oh, okay, you were right, and continue with the life, right? No one
Yes.
does that. And I'm just like, oh, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And I was shouting that out from the bottom of my lungs, from the rooftop.
Yep.
Nobody listened. Now, sometimes people just like, hey, well, what's your take on this? What's your take on that? How do
Yes.
you experience this message that you have for the people, Brandon, when you talk to people about the stuff that you discovered and about the things that you want to teach them?
I think I did have only one individual. Originally, when I was going after a movie, I was doing post after post after post, and he's like, "Come on, man!" Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, "No, dig. I'm showing you. Do the digging." And eventually, somebody that he trusted as an authoritative source did a little bit more a prettier presentation, and he messaged me. He says, "I apologize, yada yada." He sent me the link, and I was just like, "Told you!" Like, I'm. That's the thing, folks, is that you look so much to the news hosts, you look so much to your politician, your priest, your government, your and I'm just like, guys, I'm your friend. No, you're not. Well, I'm trying to teach you. I'm
Right.
showing you where I've come to my conclusions. I'm not twisting your arm. I'm not pointing a sword to your throat. I'm giving you food, knowledge. I'm
Oh,
giving
yeah.
you resources. Again, I'll do sometimes like a post where it's just 10 slides of books. Buy the books. And again, it's kind of like course material because then when I do a podcast presentation, you're just going, oh, okay, that's on what page? Okay, DM me that kind of stuff. I'll tell you what page it's on. I have nothing to hide.
Hmm.
But that's where I'm like, that's honestly how I see it is like, I'm trying to make food palatable. I'm trying to show you how I've come to my convictions and conclusions without seeming like incredible radical to the point where like I'm set calling for the death of everybody because they disagree with me. No, I'm trying to say this is how I've come to my conclusion. I wish you guys would see this because I personally think time's short, and I
Right.
don't want to see you drinking on a lie
Uh-huh.
until it's like what, Jim Jones. You end up all drinking the Kool-Aid, and everybody no, no, I want to see you come to where I'm at. That's what it is. It's like I'm not God, but I'm going to keep pointing upward, like the mirror analogy I just told you about from the movie.
Mm,
I'm going to point you upward because that's where the mirror comes from me. That's
right.
what a lighthouse is. That's ironically what last name first. It means well-known beacon of hill or hill sheltered from the storm. Lighthouse, pointing people to where you can get through on the storm. Come in, I'll give you some food. Here's a little porridge. Take your wet stuff off, put it by the fire. Let's have a good little chat by the fire. I'll tell you a story. Here's a book, and then I'll
Hmm.
send you on your way.
Right.
That's how I see my ministry, my platform, my podcast presentations. That's what I see it as, is I'm trying to help you on your own path. I hope you come along and join on what I'm presenting. If not, no hard feelings, but you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hope.
I know. Yeah,
I
yeah,
hope.
and I think everyone in this community, especially in the truther community or critical thinkers, they
Yeah.
all doing a great job, and you see that already that it's been expanding like immense. You know,
Yes.
I came to, I think it was like last no 2023 by George Hobbs, Flat Earth Files, and he was connecting some dots that said, "Oh, I looked into that. That was my mindset too. That was my train of thought too."
Yeah.
And then he put it out some scriptures and just like, this is going to be interesting, right? And shout out to George Hobbs because he did a tremendous job. And now Raul and Alex and Claude, they were on his show and they
Nice.
started a podcast. I was reaching out to Raul to do, hey, I want to have you as a guest on my podcast, and things started
Nice.
rolling, right? So we have some tremendous guests like David Weiss, Mark Sargent. That was a little bit more the perspective of flat Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if you read the Bible, it does say that we're not on a spinning ball, ladies and gentlemen. It's it's something that, and that's also something that I'm sometimes struggling with, that and it doesn't mean if it's going to be on the Bible or something like that, but
Right.
people that
Right.
preach this but do exactly the opposite in life.
Amen.
And I was guilty to that too, right? Oh,
Oh
don't
yeah.
drink
Yeah.
too much, and I'm fucking wasted all weekend. You can't practice what you preach. Oh, you should practice what you
Right.
preach.
Yes.
But the thing is, a lot of people in this community, call it the truthful community,
Mm-hmm.
are willing to give you all the details that they're digged into. Flat Earth, the fittest flat Earth of Tyler Hansen does a tremendous job. Vika
Yep.
Raziv with this documentary and stuff like that. Sean Hibbler, just like, people, look at this. You can't, you, with a normal functioning mind or brain, you can't say, oh, that's bullshit. You can. You,
Yes.
you, you just can, because we are willing to point out some stuff that you can dig into for yourself, make your own plausible truth, and you will come to the conclusion, as a lot of people as we did, just like, shit, I was wrong all the time. And now just like, I'm gonna be having a very hard time with my friends and family who's gonna call me an idiot for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lunatic. I'm the crazy one. Okay. Okay. I knew that before when I was born. But now everybody's going to tell me that.
Yeah.
And what was that for you when you connected dots, and that you probably knew, just like, oh, some of these things that I'm going to tell people are sound like crazy, or
Mm.
you have to believe something different than what you believe in?
Yeah. Um, it's funny you should say that because I have a buddy. I love him to death, but even with entertainment, he likes Star Trek. I bought him Babylon 5, which is a competitive show in the 90s. It's been 3 to 4 years. He still has never even watched one episode. And I'm like, oh. And again, I see that as fantasy fiction. I understand it for what it is, but I
Mhm.
like, I want to connect. You go to his room and we're doing game night. He's got the Iron Man thing again, merging with Iron and Cloud. I was like, okay, Then you got a NASA mug, you got a NASA rocket. Behind you, you've got an eagle, which connects to, the Soul Invictus, who carried the souls to their final destination to hell. It's honestly how I see our American logo. And
Uh-huh.
I'm just looking around his room like, you are so ripe for deception. And even in 2020, I was showing him a clip that was explaining COVID and stuff like that. Like somebody was predicting something and we need to cull the herd. You look into the root word for vaccine, of or from a cow. They call us goyim. And they're like, oh, come on, I don't believe all that. And again, it was like 30 seconds in, like you said before. I'm like, but this, but you put it into your arm without reading the ingredients. You do these things, and I'm over here just trying to give something out of love.
Right.
I had another individual from college. He called me an Alex Jones with a mental superiority complex. Where in the, and I'm like, dude, have you read the inscriptions? My heart is going into this. I'm angry. I'm sad. It's not, no, but I'm tired of people lying to other people, like I've explained. He doesn't know that thing about my parents, but like there's an incentive as to why I do the things I do. What motivates me? I'm
Right.
seeing people being lied to at my church and the hypocrisy. I'm seeing my society and friends buying into this lie. So why in the world would I be willing to stand up and be called crazy if that is the repercussions that are attached to it? It's because if you love somebody, you're willing to stand against something. Like
Right.
I said, sheepdog. You gonna appreciate me nipping at your heels? No. You're probably going to insult me. You're gonna poo poo at me. But guess what? I'm doing it because I don't want the wolf to bite your neck.
Right.
You get it? And I think that's what it goes into what you're saying is that yeah, I'm not even 30 yet, and I have lost most of my friends around my peer range. I probably am down to two, if that.
Wow.
And yeah, and they're not even local.
Right.
The rest, I would say, are acquaintances. At any moment, it could step on a landmine, and that's the end of that.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at. And it's like I even tell people I do podcasts, but nobody bothers to tune in or listen to anything that I presented, anything that I talk about. If they did, they'd probably be like, you're kind of weird. I didn't know you believed in flat. Well, like, I've never been a dogmatic. I'm not one of those, like, again, absolutionist. That's what I call it, is where it's like, it's by the party, for the party, and of the party. It's like, no, I've never been political party like that. I've never been like that with my faith.
Hmm.
No, I'm just one of those people, even with science. Like, I always got hundreds, but if you ask me anything, I probably don't remember any of it. Like,
Right.
it was one of those. So when I was approached with this topic, I have an open heart. I'm open minded. Let's hear it. You're giving me something of a perspective from your side of the lake. I got something from mine. And again, we can have those conversations. Why are you so mad at me when the UN's logo is flat? When the WHO is flat? Get a petition and get after them because apparently that seems like something you're against, but you're
Yeah.
coming after me for giving an explanation as to why they would do that. And that's kind of I think that's cognitive dissonance, and it's kind of a little bit like Yuri was it Bezmenov, the guy who defected from Russia in the 80s to America, and he's
Oh, could
explaining
be.
like you,
Could be.
yeah, he was showing. He says it's come to the point where you could literally show them photographic proof, no doubt about it, that this is the truth. And they're gonna say no, you're the crazy one, you're the delusional one, and they're gonna throw you up against the wall. I'm like,
Right.
that's most of America right now, and especially
I
what's going
think the
on with this thing.
world. I
The
think the
world,
world, Brandon.
but I would say heavily more so in America because when it comes to something like the Middle East, ignorant. When it comes to
Oh.
understanding cultural stuff in Europe, ignorant. We just
Mm.
again, if you should tell me where's this country, I probably could either pinpoint exactly where that is on the globe or whatever on the map. I could tell you where it is,
Right.
or I could point you in a region close enough where I could be like, it's probably right in between these two. I'm not exactly sure, but given the name, blah blah blah. Why? Because I want to know. When I was at work,
Right.
I was working with a whole bunch of foreigners, one from India, one's from Russia. This guy there, this guy's from Ukraine. I'm learning different language. I'm learning to speak with a broken accent so I can connect with somebody because I love learning other cultures. Most Americans, they don't even know how many stars are in our flag. Like,
Oh, the funniest thing I ever saw on television was that I think it was the late night show or the Saturday night show or something like that. And they
yeah,
were asking people on the streets from America, just like, okay, this is the map of the world. Where do
yes,
you think Texas is? And they pointed out like Australia, something like that. Or this guy that goes on the campus and says, I give you 5 questions, or 5 or 6, whatever questions.
Yeah.
And these were, even for me, as not as a college guy, but for me even, were easy questions. Maybe one I doubted, and I was wrong, but they get $1,000 if they were correct. It was just like, who was the first president of the United States? And he's like, come on, I'm not living in that country, but I think it was Jefferson. No, well, yeah, Jefferson, right? Franklin Jefferson. I don't know. But the thing is that when you point out this is the map of America, what kind of state do you live?
Yes.
And they point out New York while they live in the other side of America,
Yes.
just like, how do you go to the toilet? How do you manage to take your shit and to wipe your ass when you, that plain stupid? Come on.
That's my dating pool.
Yeah.
And on top of it, now I gotta sift on top of that all the people that might have got miracle juice up in their arms. I'm like, have some pity on a fella. I mean, for real, that's what I have to sift through.
Yeah.
I was doing bus ministry, and I asked some of the girls, like, we're doing quiz. I said, who sent Mr. What's his face? Oh shoot. Former Prime Minister of Russia, Gorbachev. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Who said that phrase? And they both go, Obama? Oh God, no.
Oh shit.
That was how bad it was. And then I pulled out $100 bill. I said, who's this? Didn't know. I was like, granted, I understand a lot of it's Masonic and whatnot, but like, you don't even understand your surroundings, but yet you still partake in rituals. You still partake in the consumer culture.
Right. And the funny
Which,
thing is, and the isolation comes especially when you, just like you said, here's the proof about what I just said. And
yes.
and they just have a belief system that they can back up. They
Yeah.
don't know the facts. They don't know the rules of their own system, or the
Yes.
mathematics, or whatever it's called. Mathematics. That's another stumbling word. But how can you? And it goes back to believe in faith, right?
Yes.
So if I'm going to write a book and I'm going to give that to someone who is stupid, and I'm going to tell him or her, just like, this is the belief system you have to go through.
Yes.
I'm your Messiah. And he and she, or she, her, whatever, believes it. Okay. But is that your faith? Is that your deep intrigue, your gut feeling, just like, wait a minute, I think this guy's a scam, or I don't know. What about this? Oh, I'm not going to answer the questions. All the answers are in the book.
Yeah.
That's something that is totally not me.
Right.
If you give me a book, just like we have on this podcast, I have some questions, I have some things I disagree with.
Absolutely.
And that's fine. But
Yep.
look at us now. We're almost 2 hours ahead. We have a great conversation. And to be honest with you, Brandon, I was listening to your episodes on, I think it was on the Firmamental. Were you on George Hart?
Yeah. I was on Josh, and I was on Firmamental.
Yeah, right. And I thought, oh, he sounded a little bit cocky. I never knew you, right? So, and just,
No,
I'm
yes.
an honest guy. So, I
No,
think,
absolutely.
but it sounded like, a little bit narcissistic, egocentric. It sounded like that. But when I'm
Yeah.
talking to you, like in this conversation, this is a great conversation. Whoever listened to this, they have some fuel. They
Yeah.
have some fire that they can light up, and they can agree and disagree with both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like about getting in touch with people, even if because you have this this thing going on when you listen to someone. Oh, I don't know, he's a jackass, or he's this, or he's
Yeah.
that, but you can't say that up front when you never talk to the guy or girl, right? So
Well, again, and I understand where people get that persona, but I have to look at it from my perspective. I've been dealing with hate for the last 4 years straight. I'm dealing with negativity and comments all the time. Most Christians are bashing me as opposed to support all the good that I've given them. I'm
Right.
dealing with cynics, so I consistently mock them. Why? Because I want you to. Because most people from the pulpit, they just give you a feel good message, and that's it. What am I
Right.
doing? I'm trolling you for how stupid you sound. Again, not because I'm smarter. It's because I'm tired of you living this lie.
Hmm.
If this is again, if it makes you go, I feel a little uncomfortable. Good. That's where I'm coming from. But I understand where you're coming from. You're over here just like, well, yeah, you could be an asshole. He's all stuck up. I
Mhm.
get that as well. But again, people never bothered to ask, how did I get to that point, or
Right.
why is this presentation feeling this particular way to me?
And it frustrates the hell out of someone when you have a great message with the
Yeah.
backup stuff, and people are not willing to, well, they are willing to tell you that you're crap or that you're lying or deceiving or whatever, but they don't look at the evidence that you have that you're not.
Yes.
And a lot of people, I made an episode, one of the first episodes I made about isolation. I have two
Mm.
hearing aids, so when I pull these things out, silence, my friend, totally silence. I love that, especially when my girlfriend talks to me. The only thing is she has a resonating voice, so it's like an equalizer, right? So when you have an equalizer and you put a lot of things down, some stuff gets through. Her voice gets through. That's fucking annoying, man. No, love that. No, the thing is, when you are into some path or you dig into some stuff that you're interested in and you connect the dots and you feel that your family and friends are not connected with you anymore, you feel so isolated.
Yeah.
A lot of people that are in this community are really doing the stuff from the bottom of their heart to bring it out, to tell people, look at this,
Yeah.
with all their love, without any judgment or whatever,
Hmm.
but are really alone
Yeah.
in this. And
Yeah.
it's great when you have a girlfriend or your spouse that believes in you or that supports you or even goes with the same narrative that you have.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, when they woke up, and I think especially in 2020, when a lot of people woke up because they had time to dig into some stuff on the internet and just like, oh, what about this?
Yeah.
Um, they're just like, hey, oh, I got something for you. You were talking about 20 years of your life or 30 years of your life or whatever, that you spend time with people that you're surrounded with several communications, and you bring up one subject and you're screwed.
Yeah.
You're never going to be invited by a party. Everybody's going to tell you, well, that's the nutcase. I'm a proud, loving, walking nutcase, just to be honest with you. But it's hard. But I think we have to push through, Brandon,
Yeah.
and we have to do the stuff that we do right now to have a great conversation with each other. Uh, I mean, with that, also the listeners, right? Have a
Yeah.
great conversation with each other and talk about what's on your mind and how you see some things. And even if it's going to be very contradictional or very whatever,
Yeah.
we can communicate, and we should do that. The internet is there also to communicate, and that's why we can hook up like this.
Right.
We can search things. I was at a party, and these are guys, these drink very special beers,
Hmm.
really special stouts and stuff like that. Love it. And there was one ingredient that nobody knew what it was, so they were digging like vocal diarrhea, like, oh, it could be a grape, oh, it could be an apple, could be the. So I pull up my phone, just like Wikipedia or whatever comes up. Oh, it's a berry.
Yeah.
What? Where do you get that from? I just pulled out the Black Mirror. How? I uh in this era
Yes.
that you do everything with your phone. Basically, you make pictures, you make videos, you call someone on the you text message, you take your email, you look at some stuff at the internet. Probably for me, it's a lot of, well, yeah, okay, don't get into there, but you can do everything with this device in your hand, and you're
Yes.
wondering with a few people with all these devices lined up. I was wondering what kind of stuff that is. How could you wonder if there's an answer just directly there? But that's the thing that we are dealing with.
Well, again, I think what to tap into what you were saying, that's part of another reason. Like, if people understood, is like I put everything on the line. I cashed in my 401k. Evan, why? Because I had a passion and I had a love. So if you're hearing narcissist, well, why would I do that? I don't have a girlfriend. I haven't texted my mom in over a year. I just looked at my phone. I want to connect as an adoptee. That's all you do. You want to be part of the family. You want to connect.
Hmm.
I had to cut that off. I have 9 other siblings. I don't talk to them.
Right.
That's not, again, so like you just said, isolation. I'm living in 2 rooms. I live out of boxes. Why? Because most of my life we've been moving. I've never been able to unpack. I've been living here for 5 years. I still can't unpack. So when you're
Right.
hearing all this, like, oh, look at you're just a narcissist, no, that's me being vulnerable.
Right.
Okay. You want to know the truth? That's me. And I'm willing to open up, like, especially, you know, a lot of the interview aspect doesn't ever come up. Everybody wants the presentation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you did, I'm nobody, guys.
No, but
But
that's
I'm angry and I'm passionate and I'm also
right.
pissed because for
Right.
literally since I was a kid, I was always arguing with my dad because I would literally point out, do you hear how petty you're? Again, I didn't say that exact word, but I'm like, you're getting mad at me for all this. Do they ever tell you about the good things that I've done? And I
Mm.
remember they all like were like, no, you didn't. And my dad was like, well, because it was a very tattletale culture. But I
Mhm.
have to stand up. I have to talk about truth because everybody's telling me to shut up. I can't sit down and shut up anymore. That's why if you see me again, I'm like, no, I'm just done. I have nobody behind me. I have nobody supporting me. It's just me, folks. But I'm
Right.
willing to do that. And again, the messages that I've gotten, I had a mentor. I've had 3 mentors. They've all cut off from my life. But I had one mentor. I said, can I show you this picture? No. Can I? Okay, fine. We're gonna have to part ways. And he started saying everything you're doing is not worth it. It's not. It's gonna take me away from the simple message of Christ. That broke my heart. I said, you know what? I can't deal with this. I walked out of the. I haven't talked to him since. I'm willing to cut off everything if it drags me because I get so many DMs of thank you. I now understand something more. Thank you for the book. That's why I do what I do. If I seem like an arrogant butthole, cool. Why? Because I'm the one taking the brunt. You are not
Mm.
even willing to post that on your social media. I am. I'm the one that gets the hit. I'm the one that gets the rock and the rotten tomatoes. What are you doing?
Exactly.
That's the way I look at it. So if you want, you know, you want me to be the guy, fine. Throw me up. I'll take another hit. I'll be the Punisher. I'll take another beating. Let me be your voice. And you just, you know, that's the way I see it.
Mm.
Let me be your voice.
Well, thank you for sharing it. I think that's
Yeah.
the
Sorry, but
special.
I felt a little convicted, but I understand where you're coming from. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'll shut
yeah,
up now.
but I just wanted to point you, and I didn't want to bring that up just up
No,
front because
no. Yeah.
it wouldn't be honest against you,
Right.
right? Because you're
Right.
going with a different perspective into a podcast and just like, oh shit, I have to defend myself for who I am. No,
Right.
I was
Right.
I was thinking to myself, I have this perception of this guy, and prove me wrong. I want to have a
Yes.
conversation with this guy, but there's something in the back of my head, and I said there all the time, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. Why? Because of course you have this what's it called when you come into a room, this first impression,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it was something like, oh, he's gonna call himself the professor. Oh, he's self-proclaimed professor. But now, when we're having this conversation, you prove me completely wrong because now I know where you come from. I
Right.
think that the listeners and also you should share your story so that the listeners know where you come from. So when they
Yeah.
listen to this podcast, dig into your stuff right now, they
Yeah.
have a other vision and a other perception of you than what they hear on a lot of podcasts, which is great
Yeah.
too because you
Right.
you did a long like 3 hours with Alex
Yeah.
Pauls,
Yeah.
and you were showing some stuff. Hopefully it's going to be online soon to watch the video so you can
It's on
see.
my Rumble. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So but that's also what we do, and that's why we're gonna get isolation because
Yeah.
um it's just like when somebody says something to you, but you don't like the person, you don't like the voice, you don't like the whatever, you're not
Yes.
going to listen to the message, even if it's that so powerful message or a
Yeah.
good message. And I did that myself all the time. But now I hear this little voice, and I was talking about it to other people, just like, oh shit, man. No, I think this is the it. But I knew up front that I had to spill it out to get it out of my system, to
No,
get
good.
into this podcast with an open mind and to talk about the things that we talked about. And the thing is, when you do your presentation,
Hmm.
there's no space left to argue or to disagree with or whatever,
Right.
because it's a presentation. That's why I told you
Correct.
when we jumped in, I want to have a conversation, because
Which
then
is
then you're
fine.
gonna
Yep.
get to know each other. And I hope you have such a great time as I have, because
Oh yeah.
I,
Immense.
I like this. This
Yes.
is disorganized production. So everything that probably organized, nope, nope,
I love
it's
it.
not gonna be. Yeah,
Well, it's
man.
raw and original. And even the thing with the title professor, I do that because I'm a professor of my faith. Doesn't make me better. And I think it's just a cute little moniker.
Mm.
That's it. Doesn't make me better than you. If anything, nope, I'm the dumbest guy. Put me in the back of the class.
Oh, I was always sitting in the front. I was always going to the back, but the first thing that the teachers were looking into, like the new group of people, new
Yes.
kids, is like, you there. "Oh, me? Yeah, you. Could you get up front here?" I was always sitting in front, just in front of the teacher, right? And I
Yep.
was skipping my chair. I don't know,
Yes.
how marmoleum, that's the floor, the vinyl, right? There were
Yes.
always ditches in it because I was, hanging around with his chair and that, like. And just to be honest, I was there and I'm just like thinking, just like, what the hell am I doing here? What should I learn? Even when they were talking about history, which I really liked. I really liked history, just like, it doesn't make any sense. Or why did they always put up the story of the people that won the war? Why not the story
Mm.
about the people that were in the war? Just like
Yes.
now, we're fighting a war, they say from the government. Well, ask the people if they want to have a war. Nobody
Yes.
wants to have a fucking war. Gonna high prices, people gonna die, stuff like that. Nobody wants to. Oh, but yep, you got this lab rats that gonna preach you that you go to space, but you got also these people in ties,
Yes.
and you got to be very careful about that. I got a suit here. I can put that on, and maybe you believe me then, but why should I? I'm just what you see is what you get.
Right.
I'm just a I'm just a divine, not divine. Yeah, well, probably I'm a divine energy that can do the things that I like to do right now with passion and enthusiasm. I don't need a clothing for that. I don't
Right.
have to put myself out with a uniform, just like, oh no, I'm going to preach now this or that. No, no, just be yourself. Just you're
Yes.
enough. You're enough. People, you are enough, and you got to
Yes.
realize that. You don't need the
Stand up.
facade to put on, whatever it's going to be to make you feel better, or to believe that other people think that you're better because you got some golden chains or a $10,000 suit. It doesn't make you a better man or human. You should be yourself in whatever
Yes.
clothes you wear. I mean, Jesus was walking around in a white gallon, probably saying, long hair with a beard. He was a badass. Do you think he was thinking about, oh, I want to have that robe that Pontius Pilatus had on? Oh, no, he was preaching some stuff,
Yes.
and he probably just like us, never went into the well, no, I don't want to have luxury, but I want to have a good normal life, right? I want
Right.
one
Just
tomorrow.
enough.
I want to sleep. I want to have nice people surround me, and I want to have some food. That's it. It's not like, oh,
Yes.
right. And
You
we
sum you
have to
sums it
see
up
that.
beautifully. Render unto Caesar the things that are at Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. Man requires some materialism thing from you right now, but don't forget your spiritual priority to God the Father first and foremost. And that's honestly where I came down to. I was crying one time. And a lot of people I know, they either have visions from God or they hear God's voice. And I'm like, I never have any of those. But you know what he does to me? Says, all right, you're going to talk. Let's talk. And he'll pause me and he'll speak through me. And he says, I'm your father. I'm your dad. Because I have two dads that weren't there.
Hmm.
But that's how, that's how God resonates. He talks through everybody through their own way. And I think, like you said, if you're not willing to ask, if you're not willing to tap into the silence, you're never going to hear his voice. That's what it comes down to. And that's that again, I haven't heard his voice yet, but it was enough. The message was enough.
Right. Amen to that, man. Yeah, but it's very easy, but you have to get rid of a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are very comfortable with the bullshit.
They're happy
That's
sitting in with the pigs.
yeah, yeah. But just like if you drive a car, if it's going to be a Dacia Duster or a Mercedes Benz, whatever, it's going to take you from A to B. Even if you
Yes.
don't have a car and you're sitting as a passenger next to someone, it's bring you from A to. So it doesn't matter. You can't bring that one to your grave just like, oh, God said to me, well, you got to pay your dues. Oh, I got a car. Fuck that. Can't bring that to heaven. Well, I got a big mansion. Nope. Nope. I got a pile of money. Nope.
Yeah.
Well, you can. And I had when I was on a firmamental, I told him that I was first of all I was doing the voice of God in a play in a theater in a theater play, and it's about everyone, right? And I translated that completely from Dutch into because it's all Dutch into English, and I preached that one, and it still resonates with me because it's about everyone. And then Grim Reaper comes on, showing up on his door and said, "Okay, God wants to get you into heaven. Show him what you did in your life." And he brings out like, "I got friends and family." Nope. They're not going to show up when you're sick. Even your best friends, after a while, just like, "Oh no, he's a pity. He's this. He's that." But I got a lot of stuff. Don't care. And that is I think maybe I'm going to make a copy out of it and I'm going to post it. I think it's a very good one because everyone can think about it and
Yes.
can resonate with it. And just like you said, if you do the things on a good way and on a positive way, without expectations,
Yeah.
then great stuff happens. And I think that sometimes God speaks to me as when I'm speaking, just like if I'm looking like this half an hour, sometimes just like, did I say that?
I've had moments.
Yeah, just
Like
like
I didn't even think of that when I was doing the podcast. All of a sudden I said something and I'm like, I never even thought of that before. What the
yeah. And sometimes I think, oh yeah, now Rob's talking because that was a bunch of bullshit coming out of his mouth. Oh man, we are 2 hours ahead. Do you still have a little bit of time and do you want to dig into some topics more? Or do you say, you know what? Oh, look at that. Little Buggy's coming in. You see, this is beautiful. Just comes popping up
Aw.
here on this
Oh, you got
podcast.
those over there too?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, those little stink bugs. That's what we call them over here.
Oh, but I don't know if they stink or.
Oh, only if you
But
squish them, they have like a pepperminty, stinky scent to them.
oh, if I'm gonna chew on it, it's a little bit
I wouldn't
peppermint.
recommend
Sometimes
it.
when I see something like this, I'm gonna search what's your totem animal. So when you see like all of a sudden a deer, search what that means when you see that. Very interesting. Just like numerology, there are a lot of things that are very interesting. Brandon, do you want to touch base on some topics that you say, hey, this I want to share with the disorganized people?
Oh, I mean, I'm a social butterfly. I could go on for hours, but I
Oh,
mean,
me too.
I think nowadays, some of my biggest irks is just seeing stuff with relationships in general, how we kind of feminized every aspect of our culture, including faith. Um, it's impulsive, it's emotional, it's irrational. Um, and I think that's another irk of mine is that even when I'm trying to tell somebody stuff, they're thinking of it like, oh, but the warm fuzzy's connected with this. And I'm just like, you say you want a man of God, and a man of God should be having some standards in his own life before he even tries to lead somebody else, right? I mean, first fix your own foundation before you try to bring somebody else up on your lily pad.
Hmm.
And they don't really want that, do they? They want the warm fuzzies, they want the traditional, and I think that's my biggest thing in today's culture is just guys, that's not for me. There's a there's a difference that we got to start implementing. I think another aspect is because I've had two sets of parents. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, you're single, you wouldn't understand what that's like." I'm like, I've seen two crap sets of parents. I have a very big insight. I've seen what manipulation does in
Mm.
marriages or relationships. I've seen how that tears families apart. I see what secrecy does in a family and how that has ripple effects on the trauma of the kids and in their relationships. Like one of my
Mm.
sisters, she had the dream American husband, owned car. If she was, you needed therapy, he went to therapy with her. She needed private therapy, let her do that. Wanted to go on a private vacation with one of her, babysit the kids, no problem, no argument. I was always there, but she wasn't happy. She wasn't satisfied because it's not what I was used to with dad. Again, trauma. You know, another sister says she just figured this out. They're never gonna listen to this, so I feel free to open up. But she was saying she didn't feel loved unless her boyfriend was hitting her. And he's like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Like, says that's how I
Right.
affiliate love is with pain. And again, he's like 25 years older than her. At first, yeah, I raised an eyebrow, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? That's another thing in our culture. In America, I'll let you know. I'm speaking from my own peer range. I'm not sure if it's solely under the Baptist, but I hear a lot of, oh, you're like 5 years apart, 6 years apart. That's just creepy. And I'm over here like, if you're in Christian perspective, it should be not until marriage. So if I date somebody that's 17 or 16, no, I don't care. Dad wants to have a gun nearby? Sure. I'm in the family dining room. I'm not in her bedroom. And what we've
Right.
affiliated that these days is you hear dating, you think coitus. Why is your mind automatically going to a bedroom with us?
Right.
It's literally supposed to be getting to know somebody. So who cares about age? And again, I know my own parents were like 9 years apart, both sets. I know other ones that are 8 years apart. I know others that are 10 years apart. But suddenly now we've broken it down in our modern Western culture where it has to be within a 2 to 3 year span. And by the time she reaches 30, well, if nobody's had her by now, then there must be something wrong with her. She becomes a dog mom if she doesn't have somebody by the end of college between 21 to 30.
Right.
And I'm like, why? Because it's subconsciously thinking, I want to take care of an infant. But what's happening in our culture? Boys in the workplace, they're afraid to approach a woman because HR harassment issues.
Oh,
So they become online digital warriors because they don't want to deal with
right.
all that. Because again, she could be giving a signal, but he's over here like, well, I don't know. Because then they got the other ones that are going to go through a whole
Uh,
court thing if you try to approach. And on the
right.
other aspect, again, and they always get after the guys. Oh, look, you're looking into porn, yeah. And it's like,
What
does anybody,
else can we
yeah,
do?
does anybody ever look into the guy's perspective of the things he has to go against? We're always looking at it from the female perspective,
Hmm.
and I'm really tired of seeing that as well in social media because, like you said, isolation.
Mhm.
It sucks. I'm watching something funny. I look around. There's nobody laughing with me.
Right.
It sucks. The most social interactions I get or real intellectual conversations are on podcasts.
Yeah,
That
and oh,
sucks.
you touch base on that's so true because especially when you look at well, not all the girls, but they have
Yes.
so high expectations about a man. And I think that they point out in some podcasts, just like, what are your expectations? Just like a few of these, real women,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever they're gonna call themselves. I want a man who's gonna support me, so blah 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 blah, and I want this, I want that. Okay, what do you bring to the table then?
Right.
How could you get a guy just like I did 13 hours today work and I'm doing the podcast. I'm gonna edit this stuff. It's gonna bring. I'm gonna bring it out within 2 hours for Spotify and Apple Music and stuff like that. I'm gonna do that. right?
I'd be
And
exhausted.
oh, if you are on that kind of level, what do you think that you're going to bring to the table? I'm going to support myself. I make my own dinner. I do my
Yeah.
own laundry. All the stuff I do it myself.
Yeah.
I can do that. Well, guess what? I can do it myself. So what else do you bring to the table? Is
Yep.
it going to be sex? I would better be off by jerking off and get rid of my stuff, my energy for that moment without having a blah 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 and expectation stuff going on, then I don't get it. And in the early days, I'm 51 years young now, winter's young. I loved playing around with girls and stuff like that. Not on a high level, but I just liked. But now, even when a girl approaches me, just like, why should I?
Yes.
It's funny because it's not into the feminism, it's not into the masculinity. It's more about, why should I? What are the odds that I'm going to be screwed by you? Right, because you don't know what their past is, what they've been through and stuff like that, and it's
With all the trauma
projected so
baggage.
much, like the sexual stuff and stuff like that, like porn, just like what we said. And I'm addicted to that shit. I love that shit, and somehow, I have to drain my battery sometimes, but the funny thing is, because it's there, I realized why. Why is there alcohol illegal? Why is cigarettes illegal? Why is coffee illegal? Porn legal? Why can you zap into your 150,000 TV programs
Yeah.
just to get you out of the nature, out of who you really are?
Hmm.
That's that's something that I realized. So I purchase life in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, my past is how I can change it. It's been there. It's been the lessons that I've learned. It's been the
Yes.
the
You
wisdom that
evolve.
I took, the knowledge that I gained. I'm living right now, and when I want to change life before change you starts now.
Yeah.
And not like, oh, 10 years ago, blah blah blah. Fuck that. It's now.
Yes.
And maybe then you're going to change your future about your perspective about the society, about women, about men, or unicorns, or whatever. Well, whatever.
Yes.
But you can only do that if you listen to the right tuning on your FM radio or AM, and then just like, what do these people have to say?
Right.
And then maybe there's like this little bell in the middle of the night, just like, ah.
Yeah, I've had that. Like when I was going through a phase, I was going into a very manipulative phase mindset when I was going into relationships. And I've apologized to a lot of them, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've changed. I'm apologizing because that wasn't the right attitude, and blah blah blah." And other ones, I never see again. But I'm over here thinking, like, man, I really screwed up. That would have been a perfect, like, and again, as you keep on going, you change, they change. But the thing is, it's like, yes, you have to understand people go through different phases. Like I was processing all that crap
Mhm.
subconsciously. I didn't even realize what I was going through. And again, when you bump into other people, they don't know what all this stuff is going to. So I've really come to a point where I'm laughing and I'm like, I've always been hearing since I was a little kid, oh, you're gonna make somebody a great husband someday. And I'm over here like, well, I'm
Really?
almost 30. I now know what I want. I don't want to date for like 2 to 3 years. I'm over here like I only need a couple months. You're only gonna really get to know somebody if you marry them. That's honestly what it comes down to for me. Again, I see relationships that you invest full. We're gonna pull the trigger. We're gonna go full hog here.
Hmm.
And I'm just chuckling because the hypocrisy that I see. Again, that's just another aspect of it. It's another hypocrisy that I see is that people say they want something, but then you look at their lives and you're just like, that's not something I'd want to connect into myself. Why would I want to connect into that?
Right.
It requires humility. It requires coming in with the right mindset. But at the same time, I see it now where I can't be, the submissive little husband. No, I have standards. But the thing is, I'm also willing to help through what you go through. I now know where I'm coming through. If you want to understand why I'm doing the things I do, cool. You know, you think I'm acting like a butt? Say it, like you just said. Say it, because I would rather
Right.
have honesty and transparency across the table, so I can start implementing a change. Because if I don't know, I can't. You know, I don't know how you perceive me. I don't look in the mirror. I don't always hear myself. Sometimes other people need to tell you what that. So that's
Right.
how you become better. That's what a relationship. As I told Mark, a lot of people like that because I think it was a little bit more personal with the interview. But I was telling him is like I came up with a partner in life can either be an anchor or a sail. They can either hold you back or they can push you farther than you ever thought you could go.
Oh
And I
yes.
think that's the mentality you need to have is that you're not finding the perfect partner, it's about becoming. I'm going to try to contribute as best I can to this thing, but it
Hmm.
doesn't mean I'm expecting that of you. I have hopes, maybe a few critiques, maybe you got 1,000 more for me, but that's where you come down to is coming to a middle ground. And I know it sounds kind of like, oh, no, but I'm kind of laughing because even as a teenager, I was writing a love letter to a girl that I thought was kind of cute. I wrote a couple as a writer. I thought that was romantic. Them, oh, that's just creepy. Go back to the 1800s. Everyone would have thought that's really sweet. So you know what I'm saying? It
Amazing.
was,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it wasn't anything derogatory. It was literally just like, I know that I appreciate seeing you, yada yada, something like that. It's simple, and I
Mm.
think we've really lost that in today's culture and society. Is the simplicity. Have fun. I wrote a lot of poetry just in general. Like when I have every time I have a breakup, I write songs or a lyrical poem, song, whatever, and it helps me process what I was thinking. So it's better now, but now it has a musical melody to it because you don't have to think of everything as bad. You can make it into something beautiful. It was a lesson learned. It might be a sad song, but guess what? It's a happy ending because I became better for what I went through. You know,
Mm.
it's like a piece of wood gets burned in a fire, but guess what? You got warmed by its by its destroying of its energy. You were warmed for it. So
Yeah,
tit for
exactly.
tat.
And it's something that you point out, and I think a lot of people should be aware of that. You can't start a relationship if you're not truly honest with yourself and loving yourself.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that are isolated gonna face this lone time, alone,
Yes.
all one. So guess what? Most people gonna be more strengthened and more stronger out of that situation, and they don't need another being to be involved. Maybe they
Yes.
you want to share stories, you want to have dinner together and talk about the day or whatever, and probably just have basically a good sex, whatever. But if you've been alone for quite some time, you know that it doesn't does the trick. It
Yes.
needs more than that. It's not like, oh,
Yes.
you sat on it and it was great. And now, and a lot of people, when they have a commitment to each other, they're going to hook up and they're going to spend the rest of their lives together. Just like my girlfriend, she lives a few blocks away. I don't want her every single day here in the house. I would kill her. Yes, you hear that right, people. I love people, even my girlfriend, but she's gotta fuck off sometimes. And guess what? She has the same opinion about me, just like, oh, Rob, not today, or too much
Right.
energy. I'm just coming from a graveyard shift. I'm done for today, and you're just wake up, just like takes a while, like 3 or 4 hours, but few coffee, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
But if you don't respect each other's space and you don't have the time to think and to be alone, because a lot of people that are stuck into his relationship with
Yeah.
kids, with a house, with all these expectations and a job to pay the car, the rent, and all that stuff, it's gonna fat you up because the
Yeah.
system, guess what, is made for that.
Yes.
It's made for that.
Not made to be appreciated and valued. It's meant to just like, rush. This is what is expected. This is what it's kind of like, like a communist state. Just make baby, da da da, go back to work. And I even laugh because I'm like, even with the movement of feminism is like, okay, we had slavery. Everybody didn't like that. Okay, we got rid of slavery. Everybody happy? Cool. All right. Child labor in the factories. All right. Nobody likes this because their fingers are getting caught, whatnot. All right. Scrap the child labor. What do we got? We got women. Well, what are you talking about, man? Like, let's tell them it's their own idea. Let's give them some rights. What are you talking about? Make them think it's there, and then we'll double our workforce. They'll think it's normal.
Right.
I like it. And that's what happened. And then now, on top of that, with the sexual revolution in the 1970s, everybody thinks you can just go around and bounce around to every single fish in the ocean, but you never settle down in cement with one person. And I think that's kind of flusterclucked the entire society, is that everybody now thinks I have to work, I have to get a job, I have to do this, and then you die, and it's like, that's your existence. Like you said,
Right.
where do you appreciate the nature? Where do you go out and just say, let's have a picnic? I don't see people doing picnics anymore unless they're at a soccer game watching their kids. Just
Or they
going
have
out
to.
for, yeah, just go out and literally sit by a lake or a river or something and just, there's the birds, there's the trees. Somebody's walking by. That we're having a conversation, and we're breaking, like, again, I always see food as sharing life. It's a sharing of an experience. I love that analogy and metaphor that goes back in thousands of cultures and traditions, that you are sharing life when you're consuming food. And I think that's even something now, is as people just go through the motions. They eat like a ramen noodle. They eat the junky stuff, and it's like, what about all the love and energy that was put into prepping this food, and so that you can have this at the end of a really, like, 13 hours. I mean, good grief, dude. But that's
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. To come home to something that's just like, wow, my day was crap. Thank you for this. This is like, I really appreciate it, because it's like, it's strenuous.
Yeah.
Living on my own, like I was telling somebody, I says, I got, like you said, do my own laundry, do my own this, da, 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 da. It's time consuming. And that's the thing, is I don't think we appreciate time, and therefore we don't appreciate relationships and the value that goes into them.
Guess what? I do it all with so much love for myself, because
Mm,
I feel great after that. Probably if I walk down in the kitchen and I do the editing, it takes some time to render. I'm gonna look around, just, oh, I could wash the dishes right now.
yeah.
Well, 10 years ago, just like, oh fuck, that I'm gonna roll a blonde. I'm gonna drink myself a beer. Gonna zapping around, and then after a week, just piling up, and it's dirty, and it's just like, no. And when I'm doing it right now, and when it's rendered, I'm gonna put it on the internet, right? And then I go back to the kitchen. Oh, just like, oh, the fairies came by, the little glooms. They made it. Oh no, I did it myself. Oh, good job. But it starts the day good. It does, and
Yes.
there's a lot of things that I'm still stocked up with or struggling with, but that's human. But that's
Yeah.
also the things that you have to make a commitment to yourself, right?
Mm,
Do I want to be independent, or do you want to be dependent? I know
yeah.
people that say, "Oh, I'm so independent." Oh yeah, who's going to wash your wash? Well, the woman does. Who's going to make your dinner? Well, when I come home, my woman does. What do you cook yourself? Probably they're going to burn a fucking egg, right? I mean, there he is, the big warrior, taking care
Yes.
of everyone else, and everyone's taking care of him, because otherwise he will die. Well,
Yes.
what kind of life is that when you can't be responsible for your own actions and deeds? I call it the CPR. You
Mm.
need CPR in life. That's commitments, responsibilities, and priorities. If you
Uh,
figure them out every single day, what's my responsibility, what's my commitment, and what's my uh, responsibility, commitment,
Commitments,
responsibility.
responsibilities,
Right. If you do
priorities.
that,
Yeah. There we go.
yeah, if you do that, then you take care of yourself. And was it hard sometimes? Yeah, it still fucking
Yes.
is. But I don't care, because I have to do it anyway, because nobody's going to knock on my door. Hey, hi, Rob. I'm going to take care of your this and that. Sometimes it happens when my girlfriend calls me, just like, should we go out for dinner? Or when somebody calls me, hey, you want to hang around? You grab a beer. You know,
Yes.
just like, wow, thank you.
Yes.
When my friend is here, he says sometimes, why do you say thank you to whoever there is? I said, why not? I mean, it's a beautiful weather. We have a campfire, like a bonfire. We have a beer. I have a companion. Why not say thank you for that? Oh, is that
Yeah.
normal? No. That's that makes me happy, grateful, humble. Just like, wow, wow, having a
And that's
great
what it
time.
comes down to. That's what I've always been stating is just saying thank you. Is
Yeah,
it really that hard to go to the source and say thank you? Like that's what I do sometimes. Sometimes I get under the covers. Thank you for a warm bed because there's other people who are freezing tonight.
right.
Thank you for this. Like I'm thirsty, and sometimes I have a drink. I'm like, this was exactly this hit the spot. Thank you that it's healthy and organic. Something like that. And I literally will just say thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Or why? Like you just said, I'm alone, and I'm still saying thank you
Oh, yeah.
because I still acknowledge that it comes from somewhere. It comes from something, and it's not just about me. It's not about my materialism or money that purchased this. It's just saying thank you. Like everybody who throws a donation my way, I will personally message every single one if I can find them on my Instagram. Sometimes they have an interesting name, but I will personally message them. Thank you. It was only $5. It's still a lot, and
Yeah,
I get, and that's where I'm like, guys, when you support, thank you, because I'm not seeing myself as like the great. No, I genuinely see myself as a beggar, and that's a scrap. Like again, you might think it's nothing, but it's like no, that's like 5,000 to me because I just want enough, and that's
right.
all. Again, if I think that's what people have missed in life is that you're always trying to get so much to gauge your success when it's just, did you give enough and you're out of you, and can you just say thank you? That is something where it's like that's ultimate humility is just saying thank you. I think I mean I went to New York. I hate cities. I hate cities. But I went to New York City with a buddy because he was like, come on, let's make it David. Let's make it David. And I'm like, okay, fine. So we go and we were walking past a couple of bums here and there. And there was this one particular one. And the guy had a sign, ex-veteran, I'm hungry, yada yada yada. And again, I walked past a couple of bums. I didn't feel anything because it looked more like they were doing drugs. But that particular one, it haunted me for the rest of the day that I didn't stop, give him money or give him a handshake or something. And I think that's it still gets me to this day. But because of that mistake, it still makes me look at every single person twice. I mean, granted, yes, there's still the scams and whatnot, but it was like sometimes you'll know
Mm.
that's the particular person that they'll say things like again, that's all you need is like I helped
Right.
somebody feel better. Like he looked as low as a dog kicked and and I felt like that. I still feel that. I still remember that. And I
Mm.
think that's what some people don't do. They just go through life, they walk past the person. I'm still thinking about that guy. Did he end up hurting himself later that night? Because I didn't bother to give him something that I had. I mean, I
Mm.
wasn't loaded, but I had enough for going to the city.
Right.
And it's just
Right.
stuff like that. And I also would have made my friend look at me going, why did you just do that? Again, I'm not trying to look good, but it would have been a moment where it was like my actions just proved this is who I am. And
Right.
that's what it always is, folks. It's evolving. Think about those moments. Think about the people you walk past because relationships, you can contribute something to somebody.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should shut up.
No, 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 no. Great, great. And that's
Uh,
something too. A lot of people don't know or are not aware of the fact you could be a millionaire today and be a bum tomorrow.
oh
And a
yeah.
bum today could be a millionaire tomorrow. It's not like something like, oh, this is going to be the rest of my life, you know. But when the IRS turns out, or your business is, you had the wrong people in your business, or whatever, economy just you have a drop shipping enterprise with 20 million a fucking year, whatever, and
Yes.
China's going to shut down. Well, a
Yeah.
lot of people are going to text you like, "Where the hell is my product?"
Right.
There goes everything down the drain, and probably you invest into some people and then into some buildings and stuff like that to get the shit going, and all of a sudden, just like, and they do that. They proved it. How many times did we say the last couple of 5 years? Oh, they never gonna do that. Oh yeah, just
And it
like that.
happens. Right. Right.
Exactly, exactly. And even if you come from the situation that every individual has his own struggle and his own journey, but when you realize that sometimes you meet people that have a struggle or a journey that you had been through already, and you recognize that, just like, oh wow,
Yes.
how was I been helped then? It doesn't have to be money or food or a car. It could be just a fucking conversation, just like, hey man, how are you?
Yes.
It's it
I
gives
had
me
those moments as a counselor in camp, and I remember one as a kid is he's telling he's it was during chapel, so we go outside, we're sitting on the hill, and he's telling me like, my dad or stepdad just got arrested, yada yada. And I'm like, well, I happen to have two parents that are incarcerated, so I understand what it is. And he's over here like, are you okay? And I'm like, dude, we're talking about you. I'm just saying I can relate, and I think there's a reason why God put you in my cabin because I can relate.
right.
And the whole thing switched where he kept asking. I'm like, dude, I'm fine. I've been dealing with this for like 14 umpteen years, something. What like, but let's talk about you. Like, and there was another kid, Nick. I love him to death. He had a beautiful Italian nose. I'll never forget him. And kid was acting up, getting kind of goofy. He said he wanted to talk to me. I said, all right, we're gonna finish up tonight, blah blah blah. Later on, we'll go out on the porch. We go out on the porch, and after I gave a little message, like a little devotional thing. I said, all right, what do you want to talk about? And he's like, honestly, I was just gonna goof with you and ask you about breakfast, but now actually, after that message, I want to talk about real life issues. And they're like, okay. There was another girl at the church where she said to me, you're not like everybody else here. All the other teachers and whatnot, like I feel like I feel off with them. I feel like, and she's telling me, and I've had this constantly where the teenagers looking at me and they're just saying like, I don't feel like I have to put up like an air about you. Like I feel like I can just open up and talk.
Mhm.
And I think, yeah, and I get that. Sometimes you don't want to talk to mom and dad. I also understand, especially in today's culture, but I don't see it like that. I genuinely see it as I didn't have anybody to help me growing
Mm.
up, but I can be a big brother to somebody else that's trying to grasp for some answers or guidance. And if I can contribute that, awesome,
Yeah.
especially a teen. I have a harder time with adolescents because, but a teen, they're trying to cement their footing. They're trying to get grounded. And I'm about to emerge into a world as another human being. What am I contributing? What am I thinking? Right. And it's like, yeah, it's just that conversation, a listening ear, just shut up, walk them through something. I think like, we give therapists a bad rap, but it's like I think therapists rose up because friends started to disappear. And I'm saying real friends. Yeah, that's kind of
Oh.
because why? Because everybody's like you said with war, it used to be tribal. They're coming to attack us because they want to expand their territory. They want our resources. It was self-defense. That's where I agree. It's
Hmm.
defending your loved ones. It's defending your neighbor. Of course, I'm going to pick up arms. But you're going to tell me some politician or some guy in a fancy is going to tell me pick up a gun to fight for him and he sits behind a counter paper pushing. No, it used to be about love. It's tribal. And the same thing with the mindset that even Klaus Schwab said our greatest threat to our movement is libertarianism because it's saying we don't need a government or less government. We need our community. And we don't have our community. We don't have those moments where we have the one-on-one talk. What are you going through? I know you had a long day. Let's sit down. Let's go out to the porch right now. Why? Because there's a little bit more air out there. We can see some stars. We can, maybe we'll see a bunny grazing or something. There's that aspect of just listen. Like you said, you don't want to hear that voice. Sometimes you need to bounce it off of somebody as a soundboard. Do I sound crazy? Yes. But no,
I'm
you
fine with
walk
that.
right. But I love you besides the point.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and I
But
think
that's it. Yeah.
we bash the therapist because it's like, no, they just monetize the friendship. That's the saddest part is like I still read psych books, but it doesn't make me like no, I'm not an expert, but it makes me, oh, there's something going on with you. I have to understand that. Like, well, for me, I hear engineering degree. I hear somebody good with math and whatnot already now thinks they're a big shot because they have a degree.
Hmm.
Whereas, and then, the counter of this culture, we get the liberal arts degree. What are you going to do with that? I see that as if all the world's a stage, then shouldn't one learn how to act? Again, for me, I like acting. So I see theater as psychology.
Mhm.
What's this person going through?
Right.
How can I relate? How can I make somebody cry or laugh at how stupid this thing sounds or how beautiful this story is by seeing the trauma that somebody's going through. Like when I play D&D, I always play the either crazy person that's a little bit, they're a little bit cuckoo. But when you
Yeah.
find out the reveal of who their character is, you're like, I've been misjudging you this whole time because it was a trauma that got them to the crazy part. Or they're really dark and you're like, well, you're just no, because there's a beautiful story of how something beautiful started to fall back and it needed something to pull them back to get normal.
Mm.
And I like illustrating that because I don't think we see that too often in our culture. Like if I could, I'd dump the whole presentation stuff and I just do satire, like
Mhm.
skits,
Yeah,
because I
right.
like making people think through laughing and they're like, that's stupid. But it's like, do you see that's what our world is right now?
Right.
That's
And a
how
lot of
shallow and superficial our relationships and our even dyeing toilet paper. I just found that out, or they dye salt and sugar because we affiliate white with purity, and it's
yeah.
all superficial.
Yeah. And black olives don't exist. It's a chemical process from green olives, so they're gonna turn black. What?
I didn't know that.
Oh,
Wow.
oh, I got a lot of these things. I'm just like a walking trivia sometimes. Just like, and you can search it
Walking
up. It's just like,
encyclopedia.
what the? But really, we come to a point that I sometimes look into society or whatever that I think, yeah, we're going to be definitely going to be extinct within 100 years because yeah, a lot of things what we touch based on just like what we just talked about before about self-love, about how you get in a relationship, what's your expectations. Don't have one, but be true to yourself. How
Yeah.
many people go to in a relationship and they know that, or the other one doesn't like potatoes, so you don't eat potatoes for the rest of your life because she doesn't like potatoes. Well, fuck her. I want to have some fries. I want to have some potato. She can order for herself. Oh, oh,
Yes.
oh, honey, I'm so with you. Well, you know, I and that's the thing. I think there's this spell on society about so many things. Just like you pointed out with the feminism and stuff like that. I'm not against it, but I'm not for it also. If you're feeling like this and that, you have to shout it from the top of your lungs on the rooftop. Fine, but don't give everyone just like this stage to, oh, I'm feeling so like whatever, transsexual dolphin. Well, fine for you. Get a life. Eh, I and
Right.
there are a lot of people that are taking advantage of that position where we're going to put them in, and you see that already in all the stuff that's been going on, just like this law that they put through, this law. I don't look at television, I don't listen to radio anymore, and it makes me so, completely at ease. Sometimes things slip through it, just like, what? Oh, wait a minute, Rob. Wait a minute. I have to be objective because otherwise I'm going to be subjective, just like the herd. Just like,
Yes.
oh, did you heard about this? Well, I don't give a shit nowadays. I don't give a shit. Even the things that I say. If you're feeling offended about that, well, that's not my problem.
Right.
That's something from you. And I think that we have to deal with a lot of generation trauma that we have been put in through us, just like you said, things that you've been through in life and
Yes.
what comes on your path, just like, oh, that's really screwed up. True. But you have to deal also with all the stuff that your parents dealt with and your
Yeah.
grandparents dealt with because they were treated like shit
Yep.
and they give that in their DNA from generation to generation. And guess what? You have to deal with it to become a better person or be
Right.
more balanced in life, basically. That's
For
what I
real.
see.
And I think some people they don't even understand the generational trauma.
Mm.
Because I was arguing with my birth mom about reparations. That's the thing that they're trying to talk about giving people. And I'm like, what about all the crap I went? And I'm usually sweet with her, but I actually like, I exploded a little bit. And I says, you think that then wasn't traumatic for me having to deal with all the crap of you being in for so long? I said, all the crap I went through now. And she's like, well, see, you're says, yeah, but I don't need a paycheck to feel better for it.
Right.
or like, this person was, I'm like, okay, you really want to get real? You know who did need some reparations? Gaul and Hispania and Great Britain, because Caesar Augustus, that was non-consensual. You owe all those countries reparations. Italy, open your wallet. And again, that's how petty it's become. And it's like,
Yeah.
we've like, as you just said, we're devolving as a society and as a human. And I hate seeing that. Um, I think that's kind of what when you see with the presentations, it's kind of me trolling. It's like the ship is going down, and I'm telling you how stupid you are because you're not bothering to read the instructions manual of what keeps a boat afloat.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm at. It's just like I'm not trying to be better than you, but I'm like, there was literally a book. There was somebody training you. There is a lifesaver on board, and you're just like, "Oh, no," and it makes me angry. And
Mhm.
I'm over here like to everybody, if my next breath was my last, cool. Because I'm tired of living with shallow, stupid, superficial, go with the herd. I'm like, who are you as an individual when you think for yourself? And again, I think that's something I like about a teen. They're still trying to find themselves. It's independent. It's solo. Whereas with adults, like at church, everybody's superficial. They're giving you a fake smile. How you doing today? And it's just like, you are the fakest person I've ever met. What?
Mm.
If I'm being real with you, I'm just saying, because I hear the same phrase from you. Like when I go to church, how's the job? You're able to support yourself? It's always the same questions. It's like, you've never asked me about me.
Right. And
You've
don't
never,
bring up the real you.
right.
No. Oh no. Oh, I got something else to do. Hi, Jenny. How are you doing?
Yes.
That guy. Oh, and that's something that's also been pointed out in this society. Men are this image of man. Do you see sometimes men cry? Well, I cry. I
I do
cry
too.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes even when I listen to music or when I see something beautiful, I can get my tears. Why? Because it's doing something with my heart. But
Yes.
oh, don't be a man that cries on TV or whatever. I wouldn't give a fuck. If I cry, I cry. I would have a reason for that.
Right.
From happiness, or maybe that there's something that's been, we were talking about some really heavy stuff today also
Yeah.
about your youth, and thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
But it's not something like, oh, gonna put it out just like that. It's
Treat me
something
like a
that,
special case. No.
no, no, we're all special nutcases, that's for sure.
Yes. Especially in this community.
Oh yeah, yeah. But and that's also one thing. We don't want to point out the things that we're pointing out just to be true, and that
Yes.
people come, oh, thank you for showing me that. No, that's okay. We do that for free.
Yeah.
It's not something that we want to get paid for or something like that. It's something that's like, use your use your sentence and your brain that you have, and that little bit of mind capacity and the brain capacity that you have, to not do the stupid 9 to 5 job or whatever, but
Mm.
think a little bit for yourself, man. That's
Yeah.
that's that brought me to become another person,
Yeah.
completely another person, different person.
I think that's also is that they've created like in America, it's very pick this party, pick that party, pick red, pick blue. It's never can I pick the no, never pick the middle. The same thing with the LGBTQ whatever now plus. Like my buddy Manny, we were going to dinner. I was doing another audio podcast for a bit with a buddy, and we were getting into his driveway, and I was like, yeah, as a Christian, I don't support homosexuality. He's like, "Oh," I'm like, dude, I still love you as a friend. If I needed a lawyer to represent me, even if you were incapacitated with alcohol, I'd still pick you because you can articulate the heck even if you're drunk. I said I wouldn't have invited you on the show if I didn't respect you as an individual in your opinion. I wouldn't have paid, sometimes we swap and we pay for each other's dinners. It says I wouldn't be driving you in my car right now because he was out of car if I didn't love you. But
Right,
because you're, all of a sudden, like, I have to love your sexual identity. It says, what you do in a bedroom shouldn't involve me.
right.
I said, I can still love you as an individual, despite I don't approve of that. And even you, think about it this way. It's like a vegan. I don't partake in that because I watched a video and I saw such and such. So this is why I don't eat meat. I am following my Bible and the faith. Again, I'm living something that I'm supposed to and it has standards. Does this mean I have to hurt you? No. Can I still drive around with you? Yes. Can I still eat with you? Yes. But this is where, again, you don't identify with my community. And it's like, should I identify with your sexuality? That defines you? What you
Mm,
do behind closed doors that I'm not part of, that's what I'm supposed to love about you?
right.
And it's like, that's very shallow, my friend. And it's the same thing with political parties. You bash one side, they're like, how come you don't go after Biden? Or how come you don't go after, oh, you voted for this one? And it's just like, no, I'm right in the middle. And you're upset with this.
Hmm.
Why? And that's where it comes down to is like, you shouldn't be upset. And that's where you know, if you can't see a middle ground and you only see the black or white, then they got you right where they want you. That's the saddest thing. It's like, guys, I can't do that. And again, I have lost friends, or well, original friends,
Yeah.
because I said I'm not playing that game anymore.
Mm.
I used to be a goofball. You ever see the show Friends?
Yeah.
Used to be just like Chandler, my friend. I would laugh. I'd be the guy always with the joke. Everybody thought I was the funny guy in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Suddenly I get serious or I start posting serious stuff. It's like, what? No. You like the court jester, but you don't like the serious dude? And that's where it's come down to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you only liked me when I was funny and I was quick with the wit and the joke. But when it comes to the serious thing and I'm concerned about your health or how you're thinking, now you have a problem with me.
Mm.
And I've lost most of my friends. I'm living in isolation because nobody wants to have those talks and be real. Okay, so guess what? I'm going to dig myself into my work.
Yeah.
I'm passionately involved. Everybody might think I'm a butt or, again, I understand. But from your perspective, that's what you got. You want to talk to me about me? Okay. But guess what? I don't usually talk about me because it's not about me.
Mhm.
That's one of the scariest things. Is just like, yeah, guys, I'm talking about my topic because I want you to dig into it. I don't need to be represented. That's why on my profile, you'll see like 3 pictures of myself at the top. Occasionally, I'll post a picture of me with a post because I want you to know it's still me.
Mhm.
And then the rest,
Not AI.
serious stuff. Yeah, serious stuff. Because it's not about me. I've lost all autonomy. Like if you scroll all the way far back, you'll see one like a couple pictures of me. Suddenly
Mm.
2020 hits, you see me posting about serious stuff too. Why? Because it's not my page anymore. It's become my mission. Big difference. So again, track record, scroll down. Don't believe me. Well, there's 800 posts. Well, guess what? You'll see the history evolving from there.
Yeah. But great stuff, man. Great stuff. And
Yes.
and a lot of people just like if you ask them just who are you? Well, oh, I'm an accountant. No, you're not.
Yes.
You got a name, right? You're a fellow human, as I will pronounce all my people. Just like, and I don't care what you are. You're a fellow human. That's
Yes.
what you are, right? That's what you do. But people have this kind of image going on about what they think that they are. Well, I'm a policeman. No, that's a job. That's not
Yes.
you. That's something that you do as a job. That doesn't make you a, you know, that's and that's
No, there's a professor that tapped into that.
right.
He was noticing that in the West, people identify with an adjective or like a title, whereas you go to somewhere in India, I am a father, I am this. That happens, it was more personal, as in these are the many aspects of myself. The other one was identified with success,
Huh.
and I was like, I've never even thought about that. But again, the other person was seeing it as this is not just a job. This is who I am because I'm doing something for somebody else. Like the way they answered the question.
Right.
And I was like, or yeah, the other one was about I, and the other one was about this is why I do it for my family. I do it for this. And I was like, that's very profound.
Oh
It's
yeah.
very beautiful. And again, to tap into what you were saying about religion, there was a time where I've literally heard both a father and son, because it was as a young son that came in to take after his dad. Even in private, they were calling each other pastor. It says father and son. He named you. You are the only guy that can call your son by his name, and he's the only guy to say dad. But you still are calling him pastor. It's like if somebody's asking me the job occupation, who's preaching, I'm going to say that guy or priest or whatever. If you're asking me who he is as an individual, it's Chris. That's it. I don't call you firefighter Frank, nurse. So no, that's your occupation outside of here. I
Right.
can call you by name because you're my friend. And too many people, they love the titles, despite even them saying I denounce it. No, you love your
Ah,
title because you get upset if I call you by your first name.
hmm. I did a trick always, not always, but I did a lot of coaching sessions, and shit, I'll have to get my. Uh, I will have to. Ah, no, it's gonna be my adapter for my phone to charge. I was always asking the question, or a lot of questions that I asked in a coaching conversation. One of the questions is with people that when I felt something that there
Yeah.
was something wrong, I would ask them the question, name me three people that you love the most. So a lot of people that I spoke were women. It's like, I love my husband, I love my two kids. Oh, wow. What about yourself? Boom. There it is.
Wow.
You want to start a coaching project? I got something for you. But that's
Yeah.
that's the thing, Um, is this surreal reality that we're living in, and these imposters and all the stuff that's going on, all the images that's going on. You are not the image. You are a person,
Mm.
and we should know about that.
You have a purpose. You have value.
Yeah.
I like writing fiction, like you were saying with war. It's a steampunk medieval, and it's like steampunk pirates versus medieval empire stuff like that. But I'm not writing it from this is the good guys, these are the bad guys. There's always elements in every single one. But I literally start both sides of the story where they killed kids, and you're just like, why? Because I don't want you to look at it as the good guy or the Imperial versus the rebels, like in Star Wars. I want you to look at it, this is the beliefs of all this guy's stuff. This is it. But there's individuals. There's people that have stories. People are dying constantly. Again, I have like the domino effect. This one comes up because this one's gone now. And you're seeing what each character is going through as opposed to, again, I'm just seeing the big war. Yeah, the war looks cool. And if you're watching it cinematically, it'd be a cool, very cool concept. But to get down to the root of what each character is processing, what they're going through, that's the story I'm trying to get across because I want them to go, I've never really thought of a war like this. Or they're having a real like a Romeo Juliet scenario.
Mhm.
And I've never really would have thought like, wow, I'm against this group, but now this group is becoming part of this group. And like, yeah, because there's individuals. And I have a line where one of the characters says, I think perhaps the meaning of life is that all life has meaning. And this is after so many people he knows died. He's finally come to the conclusion, like, I've pretty much lost everybody and I'm now the guy in charge. And I think that's pretty much what I've come up with. What do you think? It's very potent, but it's very sad that after so many people have died, that's finally the summation is like, I think we've been getting it wrong, both of us.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
And you're still writing that, or is it
When
finished?
I can.
Yeah.
When I can. It's a pet project, but again, if they crash the internet, it's like I'm one of those people is like I'll lose everything if they do that to me. So but I still I dabble into it. I still have phrases that I'll remember because it's definitely like you were saying. There's a song, um, is Abney Park, and there's a song where he's talking about this guy that's going through life. He's a kid, and and everybody likes the stories that he's talking about. He always like this, but nobody ever really got to know the guy. No, it's like behind this little crown or this guy you said you want to make me a king and stuff like that. Nobody's gotten to know me or the trauma that got me to write these beautiful stories that you all love. That's literally like basically the lyrics. And I'm like, I started crying, like you said, because I was like, these lyrics, they're me.
Hmm.
People like the stories, they like the joke, they like, but when it comes to the real me, it's like, do you realize where I went through to get to this beautiful concept or you heard this phrase and you're just like that's making me cry right now. Yeah, because sometimes in order to forge a beautiful sword it has to go through some fire and be hammered around.
Ooh,
I mean, no flower ever bloomed without growing through some dirt. Come on, folks.
yeah, yeah. Wow, Brandon.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
sorry, we're going on to 3 hours.
no,
I
no,
better.
no
Okay,
props, no
I got
props.
another show at 7:30.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you 12 questions.
Oh shoot! Now 12 questions.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the first one, what's your definition of God?
Oh boy, love.
What's your
I
definition?
had
Yeah.
sorry, no, I would say love because the whole story of the Old Testament is everybody they keep going away from me, they keep going away from me, and then finally we get to the verse. Jeremiah 3:8, I've given Israel the bill of divorce. And everybody's like, that's out of context. But it's like, well, what do we get next? God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him should have eternal life. We finally get to communion. And what was communion? Back in the day, it was a marriage, it was like, okay, I found a wealthy man in town. I'm going to give him the chance to ask my daughter if he drinks of this contract. Cool. Then they'd take the other half of that wine and they'd hand it to the daughter. And it was here where she had the chance to say, I want somebody else. Okay, fine. We'll go back to. If she chose to drink of that, though, she's accepting of the father's selection. Oh, okay. And what did that mean? It means the young man would go back home to extend onto the father's house to induct the new bride. That's what Christ said. I go to prepare a place for you up in my father's house. So by choosing communion, you're not thinking, thank you for dying on the cross with me like so many people do. It's saying, thank you for sending your son. I accept of this marriage, ecclesia. I want this relationship. That's that's love. You still get in through the son, and that's beautiful. So I would say love. Sorry,
No, oh no, no, sorry. That's beautiful. Beautiful. What's your definition of the devil?
pride. I think it's basically thinking you can always be better than somebody else. That's ultimately what it comes down to. And I think loving the elements is another key tenet, is saying that the elements are all that I need. I don't need a creator God. I think that's ultimately what it would come down to.
Without a creator, we wouldn't have five
Anything.
elements.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. What's your favorite color, Brandon?
Oh shoot. Oh. It used to be red and black, but now it's really evolved into earthy colors. Like see what we got now? Black,
Khaki,
brown.
or what's
Uh
it called?
uh I would say it's kind of like a sandy mustard brown.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right.
I like olive greens, browns, black now, but because it people might say it's showy, but I'm like, no, I actually wanted a brown suit thing because I don't want blue. I don't want to look like everybody else. It's
Mm-hmm.
uniformity. I wanted something that was distinct as a jacket because it's brown. I
Right,
can blend in and I can disappear. I don't need to be this like, but again, if you all of a sudden you do stand out because you're wearing something that's different from everybody else. So I like something that keeps it humble, and not too showy, but it's showy because you're contrast to everybody else.
yeah, yeah, exactly. All right. What's your favorite music?
Oh, I am all over the place. I think ultimately I come down to lyrics. Um, I hate modern rap, and I hate heavy metal. I really appreciate I know Leonard Cohen was in the club, but I do appreciate a lot of his songs when you break down the lyrics, and again, it's multiple interpretation. I see it. And I love it when a song can do that because like I just told you with the other one, sometimes it can be personal. There's another one, Leonardo Cohen. He's singing it, and when I'm hearing it, I'm hearing of a bum putting his hands to a warm barrel fire, and he's reminiscing his life. And again, no context whatsoever with the song. It's not a music video, but that's what I'm hearing when I'm hearing him sing the song. So I really like something that makes me think, kind of puts me on a journey.
Hmm.
I think is the best way to describe that. So yeah, so all over the place, just as long as it makes me think with the lyrics. Lyrics are very important.
What's your favorite movie or series?
Oh boy. Oh, oh wow. Oh, I can't. I'm very picky. with like if you're doing a series, like if they change an actress or an actor, really
Mhm.
irks me. I think some of my top three movies, Silverado, um, Secondhand Lions. I really like that film. And for series, Daredevil, hands down. Love that show. Um, Chuck, I like that show. And Foyle's War. I think that had to be my top three.
All right. Yeah, you can say whatever, Tom, because I struggle with these same questions when they asked me on the heliopsychosis show from Vegan Drasiv. The same questions I had. Just
Yes.
off.
Yes.
What's your favorite book?
Oh, Treasure Island. I have probably read that about 6, 8 times
Wow.
in my life. I think the second would be Wind in the Willows. I really like sometimes where they're like, okay, what's animal saying or what's a possible, and just getting into that fictional world and universe. Oh, third, sorry, Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats and Nim, kind of the same genre.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I really enjoy that kind of genre where you can get down and try to see what the animals would be thinking and getting into character mode of that.
What's your favorite drink or beverage?
Oh. Oh. Um, I think I'm partial to like pineapple juice.
Uh-huh.
I really like pineapple juice. Again, it has to be organic and all that stuff because I can taste. You can taste the difference. You can taste the difference. I think that's
uh,
pretty much it.
what's your favorite food?
Oh, I would have to say I like pizzas. Um, but I'm kind of picky. Like I usually like this is communist pizza, when everybody just gets plain cheese for everybody in the room. I hate when somebody orders that. My buddies literally looks at me, he's like, "I got cheese." I'm like, because I'm like, no, have a community talk. Talk about what you want on it. Everybody throw your stuff on. If you don't like something, pick it off. So yeah,
Right.
I like pizza and I like lasagna. I guess cheese is, yeah, I know it shows.
Cheese,
Oh,
yeah,
and
yeah.
fish.
From the
I
Netherlands,
love
we did a good
fish.
job. Yeah, yeah, we spread it all over the world. French are also very good with cheese, but the Dutch, oh yeah, we're a cheese country.
Well, I love fish too, and that comes from all my. I have a little Viking. I have a little bit of Finnish. I'm still
Mhm.
trying to figure out. I got like 8% in me. I was like, where the hell did that come from?
Oh,
I love the Finns.
oh,
They're tough. They're tough.
oh yes, they're harsh environments where these people live.
Yes.
Brandon, what kind of clothing you like to wear the most?
I actually like I gravitate towards vintage. Vintage and flannel. I really like kind of more the traditional look as opposed to a lot of the modern like polyesters and like
Ah,
sports clothes and stuff like I hate that. I like getting down to cotton, linen,
wool.
yes, wool, another one. And I'll frequently get complimented with my attire when I do throw something up together. And I usually wear like jeans these days. Because I'm trying just be casual.
Hmm.
You can look sharp, but you don't need to be showy too showy. But
Yeah.
also just enough where it's like, wow, where did you get that? And I'll talk, like, again, a lot of stuff I get is from
20
across the
years
pond.
ago from a
Yes, I'm that kind of guy. I literally will be like, where how long have you had that? I have had this for like 10 years. I just mixed it around with a different shirt today.
Yeah,
Really? Yeah. So something like
cool,
that.
cool. What's your favorite vacation destination?
I really liked going to Oregon. Um, I really want to do like an Oregon cruise, I, cruise line ship like up to Alaska, something like that.
Uh-huh.
Um, I know that at least I want to do one of those. Australia and Japan are definitely another one, and somewhere in Europe, maybe around your region. Like I really, when I was in Oregon and right now in New England, it's very muggy. You can feel it in the rain. It's just yeah.
Uh-huh.
When I went to Oregon, I could smell the ocean like 2 hours inland. I felt the pine like it was rich, and I was like, this is like over there in Europe. It's like I can, this is ancestral. It's all kicking in. And I had a great grandfather that lived out in that region, and I was like, Granddad, I know why you picked here. I could smell it.
Oh, that's why the Vikings went to their raids and stuff like that, just to see where the soil is better. Because when
Yes.
you're in Scandinavia, where I was last week, Well, there's a lot of pine trees and stuff like that, spruce,
Yes.
and a lot of deserted islands and rocks. So soil to have the things that we have here in the Netherlands? No way,
Yeah.
no way. That's
I gotta migrate.
oh yeah. We got down to the last two questions.
Oh, okay.
What's your favorite quote?
That's a toughie. Uh I got so many and now I'm forgetting them all. I've actually written a lot of them down because sometimes I need to go back and refer to something. Oh gosh. Trying to think of just one.
Or you have to pick your favorite podcast when you don't get a quote.
Oh, my favorite podcast. I really like, I think, the Smoke Pits on YouTube,
Smoke bits, okay.
because he covers a lot of war stories and seeing how, like, how they're dealing with the supernatural once in a while.
Oh wow.
And it's not a podcast, but it's a YouTube channel, but like Star, getting his full name. But it has Star in it, but he talks about a lot of the Sasquatch and stuff like that and other similar stories of like military encounters. And I really like when people, again, that's kind of the thing I think we've also lost in today's culture is it used to be let's listen to the guy at the story around the campfire because it's cold and whatnot. I
Right.
really like when you can listen to something and they're like narrating what somebody went through and you're just kind of picturing that in your own head. Like I wonder what that would be like. Yeah.
Last question, Brandon. What's your life's motto?
Love. um Basically I think it comes down to like if you are an individual who's constantly sitting on the sidelines, you kind of have to eventually understand is that if you want to stand out, you have to stand up. I think that would be a good way to surmise it is that I was sitting too long on the sidelines as a jester, joking. And finally now I'm a leader. And it's caused controversy, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, the Norse proverb, a wise man is seldom cheerful. And it's not because of my own, it's just because I've dug into it. I see now how ugly the world is. And it doesn't mean that I can just, shrug off all value of what is good in life, but it has made me matured. Is that I've been through some stuff, but it doesn't mean I have to sulk about it. I think, oh, there you go. Self pity can be one of the greatest forms of pride.
Hmm.
That's what I came up with in my 7 month of hiatus. Is yeah. I mean, I wasn't always thinking about it, but I think there was a subconscious thing. Is just like poor me, da 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 da, and then I finally came to the grips of yeah, you went through some stuff, boy, but it doesn't mean you have to wallow in self pity. You can be a better person. You can give something back and help somebody else out. And you don't have to sit here wallowing and thinking only about yourself. So I think that's that one I came up with is I was literally sitting in the tub and I'm like, I gotta write that down. Because it was just a moment where it's like smack across the face. Come on, buddy.
Right.
It's no good what you're doing. You gotta do better. Gotta do better. I think that's would be my ultimate life quote.
Wow. Brandon, thank you very much for hopping on Disorganized Productions. I had a
Thank
great
you.
time. I hope you also had a great time.
Oh, I did. Thank you. I love I'm so glad we didn't have to do a presentation, actually.
Hey, see,
I'll use it for another time.
yeah, you do. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and for all the listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a beautiful morning, beautiful day, or beautiful evening, no matter where you are on this beautiful plain planet. Running through all my life with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always kind, and he couldn't fulfill my dreams. I'm been running for all my life, with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always kind, and he couldn't fulfill my dreams. He's a pain in the ass, black as a night. God, show me the light. He's a pain in the ass, black as a night. God, show me the light and hold me tight. For I've been running for all my life, with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always kind, and he couldn't fulfill my dreams. He's a pain